Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And Happy New Year as well. I think today is actually the last day that you can say Happy New Year to someone. So happy 2025 to you and yours. I've missed you. We've all missed you. It's been quite the long 2-week stretch, but we come back in full force on this beautiful and snowy Monday, January the 6th, 2025. Yes, as you can see, we're all dressed up. We're all grown up. What a year it has been for us. And as we always have done for the past 12 years, our first show back after the break is our Helwani Nose Awards. Yes, in my opinion, the most prestigious, the most comprehensive, the most robust award show in all of sports. This, our 12th annual edition. 12 years in a row. We've done it each and every time throughout all the stops from Vox, actually from AOL to Vox to ESPN, back to Vox, and now here at our new uncrowned home. We've got so much to discuss. We have so much to recap. So many pieces of hardware to hand out. 25 categories total. Yes, everything from the usuals. Fight of the year, round of the year, fighter of the year, both male and female, submission, knockout, you know those ones. But then there's the real fun ones, the ones that separate us from the rest. Poster of the year, photo of the year, feel-good moment of the year, rivalry of the year, and one of my favorites, promo of the year. We'll go through it all, not just myself, but of course the boys as well. Sit back, relax, strap on your seatbelt because the 12th annual Helwani Nose Awards are live.
Live from the Uncrowned Studios in New York, New York, we proudly welcome you to the 12th Annual Helwani Nose Awards. The 2024 edition of the show will celebrate the greatest achievements and moments in the sport of mixed martial arts. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the 25 categories that define the year in MMA. Now, here's your host, Ariel Helwani.
The 2024 Helwani Nose Awards are back in your life. Yes, on this snowy, look at it outside. It's actually snowing, Frankie. This snowy Monday, January 6th, 2025. First time I say that. It is so great to put on this tux again. Still fits. Not for my wedding day. First time I bought this tux and wore it was 2018 as we were heading in. We were ushering in the UFC on ESPN era, myself and New York Rick. That's the first time I bought it. We have it here some 6 years later, feeling great. And God, I got to tell you, it is so good to be back in this chair. I've missed it. It's only been 2 weeks, holiday season. We had some nice holiday themed content for all of you. We had a nice little preview of 2025. You all loved the classic interview show. Definitely going to be doing more of that. Thank you so much for the positive feedback on that. PT was working hard with his boys, looking back at the year that was in European MMA and also looking ahead to 2025. And yes, some people say, you know what, it's January 6th. It's time to put 2024 in the rear view mirror. And to a degree, I agree. But as I've said time and again, you can't have a proper award show in the midst of a year. You can't do it. You have to wait until 12/31. This is our first show back. And so here we are, the most comprehensive, the most thorough, the most robust, and in my opinion, the most prestigious award show, not only in combat sports, but in all of sports. I mean, look at this. 25 categories total. Male, female fighter of the year, fight of the year, round of the year, knockout of the year, submission, breakout fighter, most improved, comeback fighter, and comeback of the year, upset of the year, betting underdog, rivalry, coach, event, crowd, walkout, promo, poster, photo, story, feel good, social media user, most profitable fighter, lock of the year. That's 25 total. I love it. We've been doing this for 12 years. This is our 12th edition. And like I said, we haven't missed a year over the past 12 years throughout all the stops. Yeah, maybe you had a different name here and there, but it's all the same. And shout out to GC, who once again has really outdone himself. Look at the set. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. You got the nice little graphic over there. You got the balloons. You got all the tchotchkes over here. And you may have noticed, by the way, a new addition to the set welcome back to our good friends over at Celsius. Thank you so much to them for joining the team, for supporting us. My favorite drink, and I'll be having one of these by my side, sparkling watermelon, just to quench my thirst throughout this beast of a show. I can't wait to sit back and recap the year. And the most fun part about this all, myself, GC, Rick, Petesy, even Frank, none of us know each other's picks. So it's all going to be live. It's all going to be reactionary. There's no kayfabe, break the fourth wall type stuff. We're all reacting in real time. So happy to be back. So happy for this show. This is one of my favorite shows of the entire year. No guests, just us, recapping, handing out hardware, and tipping our cap to the best that was in the past year for mixed martial arts. Let me say hello to everyone. Guys, I missed you so much. Frank, welcome back. Happy New Year. Yeah.
Missed you too.
You look fantastic as always. GC looking tremendous with the glasses.
Gold bow tie too.
Gold bow tie. That's a first, by the way, right?
No, I wore it last year.
You wore gold last year.
Yeah.
You know,
thanks for remembering, man.
Yeah, well,
no, I appreciate it.
There's a lot of different variations to your tux game. You had one a couple months ago that you were rocking. I'm sure this is a different one. Of course, New York Rick rocking the patented tux T-shirt. He's got the glasses. I love the fact that everyone's, really,
We're
into it. Yeah, you're into it. You're into it. You're dressed up. You're doing your thing. And, I said I wasn't going to break any fourth walls. Well, this was weighing on me over the weekend. I was like, yeah, PC's the new kid on the block. Like, did anyone tell him?
Who the fuck is we?
Anyone, give him the heads up? I mean, surely he's seen the show over the years. Yeah, sure, his texts, throughout this process, asking me questions clearly indicated that either he was just winding me up or has actually never watched the show, which is fine. It's all about himself, the crack, yeah, great. But surely he's seen a clip or two of us all dressed, in our fancy suits. And so I just checked in with him some 20 minutes ago if he had, some kind of tux. Doesn't have to be an actual tux. Doesn't have to be a traditional black tux. Could be a navy one like mine. Could be a t-shirt tux like Rick's. And I just wanted to make sure that it was all ready, pressed, ready to go. And he informed me that, in fact, he was unaware that we wore tuxes on this shirt. So you look great, PT. Welcome. Thanks for.
What are you wearing,
I
man?
just want to. For my defense. I contacted New York Rick 3 hours ago, just in case. I was like, potentially, there may be some things I forgot.
Bullshit.
Contacted him. And I said, Rick, is there anything I'm forgetting here, mate? Like, do I need to have anything prepared? He said, no, Petesy, this is a piece of piss, mate. Just show up. We're all going to have a great time. In that time frame, I would have had enough time to secure a tux. Like, how much? You expect me to buy a tux? How much does a tux cost?
By the way, you think you could rent a tux in 3 hours?
You waited 3 hours before the show started to hit him up. We haven't done a show in like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So your question was actually false. Like you were like, "Is there anything I could do?" But I've left.
Don't even have to leave the house. I trudged through the snow uphill to get here.
Yeah.
Wearing this tuxedo the entire way.
That's right.
And you couldn't be bothered to even, maybe put on a tie or something like that.
That's how
I just love how everybody said
down.
everything that I had to say, but I don't even have to say it. It's great.
You just got a jumper on.
It's
You
tremendous.
just got a jumper on.
Yeah, actually on a random Tuesday, you're dressed up more than you are today.
It's an Irish tux.
No, this is my usual attire. I mean, this
You
is a
couldn't
full
even have
tracksuit.
given us the tracksuit with the chicken fillets, something,
I got a lot of wear over the Christmas. I'm not going to lie to you. But listen, I have a confession to make. I'm actually more than you boys. Of course.
Oh my God! Incredible! Holy shit!
Wow!
Of course I do.
Oh my
Thank you very much.
All right, Ariel, you really have to break the fourth wall now. You really have to break the fourth wall on what you texted Petesy before the show.
I literally wrote to him, tux, and he wrote, oh shit. And I'm sitting there eating with you guys.
Oh my God.
What a
Wow.
That
What a
is
legend.
fucking incredible.
Holy shit.
Hey,
wow.
yo, I've even got a little cocktail going here.
And you got the freaking.
Oh my
What a
God.
reveal.
Wow.
Beautiful.
I was actually
Thank
wondering about
That-
the neck. I was like, the neck isn't going all the way up. Do we just have a short neck here? What's going
There's
on?
a lot
You're
of
padded
thickness.
by the
There's a-
tuxedo, though.
I know.
I'm actually pissing sweating here, boys. I've been sitting in here for a half an hour wearing 4 layers. it's gotten pretty wild. I feel like I'm going to my debutante ball here. This is fabulous.
I know Jordan worked very hard on all the assets and things for this, but I might have to change my comeback of the year. That might be my comeback of the year.
Did anyone know? Did anyone know?
No, I had no clue.
He was even playing it up when you couldn't hear him. He was complaining about, they told me 20 minutes before was this bullshit. I was like,
I was legit a little bit bothered. I was like, Jesus, this is what we show up in?
I can tell.
A Nike pullover?
So now,
A Nike pullover to the award show?
This is amazing. That was
What a
fantastic.
way to start.
By the way, rental owned.
CT2 Blanchardstown Village today.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So you really did rent that shit today.
20 minutes
Fucking
ago.
legend. That is.
What are we sipping on, Pizza? A little, what is that, a Negroni?
It's a Negroni, yes, from Lapos. Our good friend John Beer sent these over, and let me just tell you.
Oh, they're
it is
they're bottled up, and you just pour it in over ice.
It is just musical.
Did you put a Celsius floater on it as well?
Yeah, of course, Celsius.
Of course.
You know, I had to spritz it up with a bit of Celsius. Fabulous.
Holy shit.
What a
This
start.
is incredible. Actually, I think we had a poll going before all of this saying, do we believe Pizzi? Sure, he's an honest bloke, 57%. Nah, he's BSing us. And 42% said that. So this was, I mean, I kind of want to go home.
but not in the way that they thought.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
BSing, but
Fantastic.
they were
Well
right.
done, Pizzi.
I set up the whole thing. I was telling Ariel, listen, man, I deserve a lot of abuse for this. Make sure you come in on me. As soon as the show-
Oh, wow.
Oh my god! And then I told him,
what a
don't
move.
don't put anything on. We'll give you the abuse gladly. And look at you. Wow,
Played
that
us
was
like a fiddle. That was unreal.
fantastic.
Pizza.
Gosh.
Wow.
I need a break
Phone's
after
blowing
that.
up here.
Can we take it to 10-second break? Okay, so you all look fantastic. Thank you for joining us. You know the drill by now. You know, what's fun about this particular award show is that it's not just, my picks, and then we talk about them. All have, is everything okay? They're back there. What
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort out myself. There's sweat everywhere, man.
No,
I was
you're
about to
great.
say, was that you, Pizza?
I give my pick for a particular category, a winner, and then Rick goes, and then GC goes. And what's fun about this year, of course, is that our good friend Pizzi is involved as well. Now, a wrinkle that we've introduced over the last couple of years are the people's picks. I put this up on my Substack over the break. Big shout out to Alex Weber and moderator Lewis Emeritus, who helped compile all those for us. So at the end of each category, at the end of each discussion, I'll tell you who the people voted for, and some interesting ones as well. Also, historically, because we've been off for 2 weeks, our last show here in the studio was, of course, that 12/21 Fury Usyk show. The boys did great. The post show was great. Shout out to Keith Eidick for joining. I really enjoyed the coverage and the discussion. Historically, there's a litany of news that happens over the span of 2 weeks. We all remember what happened a couple of years ago. That was obviously a big one that we had to talk about. There's usually fight announcements and pay-per-view lineups that are revealed. I got to be honest, it was so damn quiet over the last couple of weeks. Like, this morning, you find out about PFL instituting elbows for every event. Yahoo, welcome to 2025. That's big. Raw debuting on Netflix tonight. We'll talk about that tomorrow, of course. But really not that much news, unless I'm missing something. After Fury Usyk came and went, MMA very quiet. Ryzen had their show on 12/31. Not much in the world of boxing. Not a ton going on in the world of pro wrestling leading up to today's show on Netflix. So we don't have a lot of news and notes. I have no song. I have no recap for all of you. We're going to get right into it. And there's a ton of big events coming up over the next couple of weeks. Of course, the massive UFC 311, a little less than 2 weeks away at this point. But as far as a catch-up, not much going on. And if you need one, go to uncrowned.com. The coverage over there, the stuff, the content over the past 2+ weeks, led by our fearless leader, Shaheen, has been stellar. Everyone contributing has been amazing, but really, really great stuff to get us over this hump into the new year and ready to go. So what a year it was in the world of mixed martial arts. What a time it was. We had we started this year in a different home. We're now here at this incredible place known as Uncrowned HQ, and a lot of events, a lot of new champions. I believe 7 new UFC champions. There was a gap that was widened between the UFC and the competition, and so much to get into, and I can't wait to see how everyone weighs in. Let us start with a very fun one of the most prestigious categories, if you ask me, and the reason why I started with this one is because, let's be honest, I think there are some that we'll all agree on. I don't think we'll all agree on this one. Might be wrong. Again, I don't know. I don't know who the others picked, but I have a feeling that there'll be some dissension here. And so we'll start with the big one, Fight of the Year. Ah, yes, Fight of the Year, which for me was a tough one. Guys. Fight of the Year was a tough one because I felt like there were different categories, different criteria, different levels, different discussion points, all that and more. Is everyone ready back there? Everyone's good to go?
Yeah, man.
Never
Okay.
been more ready. Born ready.
Yes. All right. So
Canadian flag waving.
Canadian flag waving, American flag waving. Everyone's happy. Joy to the world, peace on earth. Now, let's go. Fight of the Year. All right. Shall I go first? I shall go first. I'll go first. Fight of the Year. Guys, there were a lot that I had to... this one was really tough for me, I'll be honest, because at the very top, can I see everyone? I feel like I'm just talking to myself here. Let me see everyone. At the very top, I started to see a lot of people over the year from April. I started to see a lot of people say that it was Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje, and this annoyed me. I think we've talked about it on this show. I kept saying this wasn't an amazing fight in the sense that when you think of Fight of the Year, you think of a back and forth war, you think of ups and downs, you think of big stakes attached. Okay, it may have had some of that, but back and forth it did not have. It was a fairly one-sided fight. It was a fairly one-sided beatdown. It was very dominant, which ended in the great knockout of Justin Gaethje by one Max Holloway. And I would see in May, in June, in July, August, etc. People always say, oh yeah, easy. Fight of the Year is Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. I saw some big outlets say that Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje was the Fight of the Year. That's what I knew for sure. I knew for sure that it was not Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. I think people remember the amazing 10 seconds. They remember how fun it was, but that's not Fight of the Year. Fight of the Year has to be close. It has to be riveting. There has to be big stakes. There has to be something attached to it. So I knew for sure that it wasn't Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. And then it leads me to the next point. I feel like the great fights of the year in the past, there have to be big stakes. Sure, there's great back and forth battles. There's wars. It's a war of attrition. It's a chess match. But if there's nothing really attached to it, when I'm watching it emotionally, it's hard for me in retrospect to say that was my Fight of the Year. And so, and I'll get to mine in a moment. That's why ultimately it came down to two, and why I ultimately did not go with the fight back at UFC 306, Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics, because I didn't feel as great as that fight was, as incredible as that fight was, as mind-numbing as that fight was. I didn't feel like it had that emotion that I was searching for. I don't remember sitting on the edge of my seat saying, holy shit, up, down, roller coaster, feeling some sort of way, emotion, all that stuff. And so in the end, for my 2024 Fight of the Year, I went with the main event of UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center, Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev, because I don't remember over the past year feeling that emotional about a particular fight. There was so much at stake here, of course, for Dustin Poirier. He had his moments. There were ups, there were downs, and in the end, it ended in heartbreaking fashion for Poirier, but in incredible fashion with an incredible finish by Islam Makhachev, showing once again that he's the best lightweight in the world and maybe the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I remember that day. I remember that week. I remember the build-up. I remember everything attached to it, and I felt like the fight delivered. It wasn't the one-sided beatdown that some people were predicting. It was Dustin going for broke, knowing that he had one last chance, having his moments, and then in the end, succumbing via submission to Islam Makhachev. That, to me, was one of my favorite fights of the year, not only because of the emotion, because of the ups and downs, and because I felt it over-delivered. And so in the end, I went with Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev, UFC 302. A long answer to a short question, if you will, but I felt like I had to explain how I got there. Rick, you go next.
I had that fight as my number 2. I agree with everything you said about it. I have little notes here for each one. That was my number 2. Highest stakes, real drama, fantastic finish. It had everything you want. But for me, there's just a disagreement that we have to have, and that is that I don't believe that it has to be a back and forth affair. I don't believe that the way you get to Fight of the Year has to be a close fight or has to be a fight that was traded. I had Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje.
Wow.
And I'll tell you exactly why. The expectations for this fight to save UFC 300 were here, and the expectations were met, if not exceeded, by the magic that we got out of it. I have in the past, and I don't remember what year it was, I believe I picked Renan Barão, TJ Dillashaw's win over Renan Barão one year, because it was the fight, it was the moment, it was the magic of that. That was the best fight of the year, the best feeling, the best come down after that magical moment. And for me, nothing topped. We left that fight going on to some great magic after that in UFC 300. But that was the apex. That was the pinnacle. That was the peak of that card. That was the peak of the year. It was the best moment in MMA this year. And so for me, regardless, by the way, the scorecards weren't favorable to Dustin Poirier in that fight as it was heading into the final round. It wasn't as back and forth. Like Islam was up 3 rounds on 2 cards. It had enough drama for me that I felt like Justin Gaethje was still in that fight from start to finish. And then the finish came and put it completely over the top. It met the lofty expectations and potentially exceeded them and gave us something that I'm sure will be winning some additional hardware later in the show. So Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje.
Just pushing back on one thing, Chris Lee did have it 2-2.
That was one.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, so
it wasn't exactly.
That is what I
Okay,
said.
Sal-
Not pushing back to anything. He did say two of the judges had it.
Yeah, Sal Diamato. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so my point is,
Thanks for stopping
That's
by.
a good
And Eric
justification. That's a good
my
justification.
point is, it wasn't exactly
For me,
up
it was
for grabs.
For me,
Round
it was
5,
seeing Islam falter a little bit and seeing him look a little bit human was tremendous drama. Anyway, I want we'll get everyone's pick and then we could weigh in. Feel very strongly that yours doesn't qualify, but that's why I love this because it's yours. I love this. GC, you go ahead.
Yeah, I actually disagree with both of you. I don't need the stakes. I just need a fantastic fight. And you mentioned it earlier. Esteban Rivabex versus Daniel Zellhuber is the one that got mine. We actually all watched this together.
Yes,
in the beautiful Las Vegas hotel room that we watched the Sphere card in. Just a back and forth war. Went all 15 minutes, and by the end of it, there was only 15 seconds of control time. There was knockdowns. Both dudes bloodied in the end. A super razor close split decision. Just a fight that delivered in all senses of the word. If you're a fight fan.
It was an incredible fight. Incredible fight. There wasn't a ton of attention on that fight going into that card, and they kind of stole the show.
That's what I love. Those cards, like, there's another fight we'll talk about a little bit later on, but it's those ones that you just are kind of just sitting there watching, and then by the end of the first round, you're like, wow, this fight's pretty great. And then by the end of the second round, you're just like, this fight is incredible. And then the third round that they delivered, I mean, both dudes threw over 300 significant strikes in the fight. It was a tremendous war.
I ultimately, to me, it was down to those two. It was down to the Islam and DP fight in this one. And ultimately, I went with the emotion that was brought out when I was watching the 302 main event. But this was one of the hardest ones for me because I kept going back and forth. I had yours as my pick, and then I deleted it, and I went back. Very, very tough one, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to start with it. Petesy.
I believe this will be the very first protest vote on the awards show, and I'm happy to be that guy.
I can assure you it's not, by the way, Petesy. But
okay.
Please.
Thank you. As you know, I don't watch the show. But anyway, all great considerations. Even Eric, I would be more on Ariel's side of things when it comes to fight of the year for Holloway v. Gaethje, but an excellent justification from New York Rick. I'd like to add before I move on. My fight of the year happened in Glasgow in September, and none of you had the ability to watch it. Yes. It is Lewis McGrillen v. Dean Garnett, a true passing of the guard matchup between a Mancunian McGrillen and a Liverpool native in Garnett. This fight was poetry. I mean, the thing about this fight is, I appreciate that everything that you guys have said about stakes, everything like that is important, and usually that would factor in. But the beauty of this fight is you could sit someone down, not explain anything to them about either of these guys, and somewhere among the 17 knockouts that happen over the 12 minutes of this fight, they will fall in love with MMA. It's a truly brilliant fight. Lewis McGrillen, who came up short in the final of PFL Europe last year, gets through to the final with this performance, eventually wins the tournament. The reason why it's a protest is because I'm putting this out there. I'm trying to showcase this for all of the US fans who missed it. Lewis McGrillen is a star. He's a continuation of what PFL have done with the likes of Dakota, Brendan, Loughnane, and none of you guys can see it. I see a lot of criticism for PFL in terms of where they go about their business, particularly with US people. If they saw this stuff, that might help them kind of endear themselves to a broader audience. They are putting building blocks in place in Europe, and I think Lewis McGrillen is one of them. And this fight, for me, is the most adrenaline-inducing 3 rounds of fighting you could have got in 2024.
It's up on their YouTube page right now for all to see, so I highly suggest anyone who hasn't seen it. I did watch it after the fact. I believe I even tweeted it after the fact, so I have seen it, and you're right, it is an incredible fight. And I love the fact that the first time that we ever have 4 voters for, in the history of the award show, that we all disagree with each other. We all had 4 different picks.
It
all
does say
amazing
what
ones.
the strength of how good some of the MMA fights this year were, because I've got some honorable mentions. Like, it is deep. There's a ton.
Yeah, well, let me hit you with some. And then you add as well. Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic was a great fight. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis, as short as it was, was incredible theater. Dan Hooker, Mateusz Gamrot. I got to be honest with you. One that I was considering for a moment was Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree. I freaking loved that fight. I thought it was amazing. And for the first couple rounds, it looked like, holy shit, is Khalil Roundtree going to do this? Petr Yan versus Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira, Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling, Cub Swanson versus Billy Quarantillo, and Armin Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. Just a few. You want to throw out some other ones, Rick?
The only one I had that you didn't have on your list was Rebecki versus Oralbai, which was insane.
It was a 2-horse race for me between Rebecki Oralbai and Zellhuber Ribovics.
A ton. And by the way, I wanna give a special shout out, who I should have mentioned at the very top of this. For me personally, a huge asset when doing this show, especially with my old age, and now I'm forgetting things a little bit, as we witnessed in our classic interview show, is our good friend Kaposa. This whole freaking award show should be in honor of him, because he is a true encyclopedia of knowledge. And so thank you very much to him for all the help behind the scenes on this particular show. Am I missing any, or do you guys feel like we addressed all of them? I still, maybe I deserve, maybe I should sit down and watch Holloway Gaethje.
Yeah,
but my feeling on that fight is it was rather one-sided. It was incredible. It was fun. It ended in the most amazing way possible, but it never truly felt like Gaethje had a chance to win that fight.
I was compelled to look it up, and wouldn't you believe it? One judge had it 2-2 heading into the 5th, and the other had it.
And who was that judge? Was it Sal D'Amato as well?
No, it was
Doug Crosby?
Hunichiro Kamijo. So it was actually the exact same scorecard as...
Exact same scorecards, but also remember
Poirier
that Gaethje was a sizable favorite going into that fight. So it was kind of impressive what Max Holloway was doing, and it sort of felt like Gaethje was just going to start opening it up at any point. Like, Max Holloway was as big as like a plus 210 going into that one. Like, everyone thought that he was going to get steamrolled, so it just made what Max Holloway was doing that much more impressive.
For you, GC, where do you have it? Do you have Islam Poirier above Max Gaethje, or
I did, yes, I did.
Oh, all right.
But
so
like I said, to me
here.
it was Zellhuber Ribovics and Oralbai Rebecki. Those two just stood out to me. They were just such good scraps.
Did anyone consider Pereira Roundtree?
No, but I considered it, but it wasn't going to be one.
I had it number 4.
I love that fight. I love that fight. I love that finish as well. All right, so one in the books. Let's keep this rolling. So always with Fight of the Year, and congratulations, by the way, to all the winners. With Fight of the Year, I like to pair Round of the Year. And more often than not, by the way, the Round of the Year winner isn't involved in the Fight of the Year package, if you will. And so I'm curious to see if that's the case this time around, or perhaps it is involved, if you get what I'm saying, a round within the fights that we just mentioned. Petesy, why don't you go first?
I had Ribovics v. Zellhuber round 3. I would have potentially put in McGrillen and Garnett round 1, but I just didn't feel like I can put them both in there. Ribovics v. Zellhuber was one of those fights where that would have probably been the one I went for had I not gone for McGrillen and Garnett. So I felt the third round of that fight was absolutely electrifying. And you have to remember, GC made the point earlier that we all watched it together. We did not, as I was somewhere over the Atlantic at the stage of this fight was going on, trying to use a dodgy link, coming in and out of service as the fights were on, which only added to the excitement here. Absolutely fantastic.
Those photos are great as well. That's a tremendous pick. By the way, I failed to mention that the people agreed with Rick for Fight of the Year. They had Holloway Gaethje as well. So a nice little shout out to both you and the people. Rick, why don't you go next? Round of the Year. Surely it's round 5, Holloway Gaethje.
Nothing more to say. It was round 3, Ribovics.
That just proves my point. No, I'm kidding.
He's not letting
The
us
tee up
go.
earlier where you said they're not
kidding.
often
I'm
from the
kidding.
same, and
I'm
then you're
about
trying
to-
to.
I'm
it's
about
like
to
in
own
straw
myself.
men being
I'm
built
about to
up
own
all over
myself.
the place. Just following Pizzi. Couldn't have been any other thing for me. I had other like honorable mentions, but this was above them by leaps and bounds.
GC?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go away from y'all on this one. I've just been talking about it, the Rebecca oral by round 3. Me and Rick were watching that together. It was on the prelims of 308, I think it was. I mean, this one was just unbelievable. Rebecca comes out. It looks like he's about to finish oral by. Like, it looks like he is dead to rights. And then he expends the entire gas tank. And then oral by comes back, just digging deep, showing incredible heart. Looks like he might finish Rebecca. Looks like he might steal the round, steal the fight. But then Rebecca ends up getting it. This was just an all-out war. You got the eye of oral by, the giant cut on Rebecca. Like, just a classic fight. And round 3 was the highlight of it.
That reenactment play-by-play of the round was tremendous.
I mean, me and Rick were in here. Like, I sort of got like, it was at a watch party, but obviously it was the prelim, so we hadn't started yet, and we were just like going nuts. I was like, man, I wish we were live right now. This is just fantastic. This is as good as it gets as a fight fan.
That was on my list. That was in my top 3. Some other ones: Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker, round 1. McGrillen Evans versus Dean Garnett, round 1. Joshua Van against Edgar Charez, round 2. What about Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, round number 5? But in the end, I went with Esteban Ribovitz versus Daniel Zellhuber, round 3, for everything that PT said. And it was incredible. I remember watching it with you guys and being like, holy shit, this is nuts. That was a lot of fun watching it all together. Back and forth they went. They stole the show. And some stats from that particular round, courtesy of UFCstats.com. As far as significant strikes, Ribovitz landed 92 of 191. Zellhuber, 43 of 116. 167 head strikes thrown by Esteban, landed 73. Zellhuber, 37 of 103. Body shots, 14 of 19 for Esteban Ribovic. Just an amazing back and forth, bloody end to that tremendous fight at the Sphere. So congratulations to them. The people, in case you're wondering, they had it. Holloway Gaethje, round 5.
I can see a pattern emerging.
It's
A lot of
funny
love for that one.
That one wasn't even on my list for round.
Same.
I had the ones you meant. Oliveira and Chandler was 2 for me, and then Van versus Chairez was 3. What's crazy is Van versus Chairez was on the same Sphere card as Zellhuber and Ribovic, and it was like, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that was going to be the fight of the night, the round of the year, and then it got topped later in the card. It was pretty nuts.
Man, no love for Oral by Rebecca. I thought we really shared a moment there, man. But
that one was a better fight than an individual round because they traded. You know what? Like, one guy was on the verge of killing the other. Then the next round, the other guy was on the verge.
And
of
then
killing
the third round, you got the both.
Yeah,
of them almost.
it was good.
You know, it's all good. It's all good.
It was like 4th.
I journaled about it. I thought we shared a moment, but it's all good.
Incredible. Well, some dissension in the first 2 picks, and so perhaps a fight that we've been talking about will be discussed here in our next category. Always a very fun one, whether you're doing boxing awards or MMA awards. Of course, the prestigious Knockout of the Year award. This one might be unanimous. Let's see. Rick, you go first.
Easy call for me. I mean, if you saw what my fight was, you could probably guess that Max Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje was the KO of the year for me. There were some strong contenders. It would have been potentially hard to move me off this. There were definitely some ones that were in the running, but as I said, the magic of that moment and the come down after that moment, it was going to be nearly impossible to top from there.
And by the way, shout out to that Clarissa Shields boxing glove that you have up there.
The Guo.
Yes.
How was the movie, man?
5X.
How was the movie?
Haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
How dare you? You haven't seen our movie? That's
no, but critically acclaimed. I'm seeing all the reviews coming in.
Bro went and saw Nosferatu over the Clarissa Shields movie, and he claims that's his quote.
And it is being critically acclaimed. That is crazy.
Crazy, bro.
It's next up. Promise.
All right.
Shout out to the
Taylor one as well.
Shout out to the
Katie Taylor. Thank you. Yes.
GC.
Yeah, I mean, stop. Like, if you have anything else, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. As soon as this one happened, I knew it was going to be knockout of the year. There's just nothing that could pass it up. You're on UFC 300, this incredible fight between Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, 2 of the biggest stars in the sport. And for it to end like that, The moment fighters have tried to recreate this moment,
Yes.
6 times since it happened. It's now been coined the Max Holloway when you point to the center. No one has been able to even come close to recreating it. And the fact that they are just swinging it out in the middle, and then the knockout happens with 1 second left. As the timer hits 0, it's Justin Gaethje completely face down. Whole crowd's going crazy. Max Holloway is going absolutely nuts. And I feel like everyone as a collective was going nuts as well. Just one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced in MMA. Hard to top that one. So yeah, knockout of the year. If this isn't unanimous, I don't know what to tell you.
Might be the knockout of the year, might be the moment of the year as well. All of that, those last 10 seconds on the biggest stage of the year. Petesy.
Well, again, I'm going to take you back to Glasgow and no, I'm joking.
Oh, jeez. I was like, holy
Petesy, I was about to say,
Holloway,
brother.
boys, relax. It's Holloway. I mean, the most electrifying moment in the history of the UFC, perhaps. Just unbelievable, pure adrenaline. I love it.
Yeah, it was incredible. And worth noting, I don't know, I surely don't remember the award show from 7-8 years ago, but has anyone ever been the winner of the Knockout of the Year award, but also was knocked out, and that was a contender for Knockout of the Year as well? My pick, of course, is Max Holloway's knockout of Justin Gaethje. Knockout of the Year, moment of the year. I mean, so many things you could say about this. It was incredible. Just like you said, GC, a moment that will be talked about for years and years to come, and the fact that it was imitated multiple times since then already in the ensuing weeks and months says it all. You know, they do that Bob O'Reilly video before the UFC main card start within the arena. This is like tailor-made for one of those video montages. But Max Holloway was also knocked out in pretty shocking fashion by Ilia Topuria. And so that's what I mean by that. I don't know if anything comes to mind for you guys, but someone winning the Knockout of the Year award and also getting knocked out in spectacular fashion in the same particular year is pretty unique, I would say. Some others that could be considered: Alex Pereira knocking out Jamal Hill on that same UFC 300 card, Ilia Topuria's knockout of Alexander Volkanovski, Dustin Poirier knocking out Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC 299, Pereira knocking out Yuri Prochaska at UFC 303, Vinicius Oliveira against Bernardo Sopaj at the Fight Night event, Fares Ziam against Matt Frivola, Pereira Khalil Roundtree, Shara Magomedov against Armin Petrosyan. On and on we could go. Muslim Salikhov against Song Keenan. Any others that come to mind from you guys?
No, but I just want to give special love to that Loke Dog flying.
I was going to say,
insane, dude.
the bullet, double spinning back fist, and the Loke Dog flying knee were the only two that I even thought of. Obviously, no brainer what the winner was, but that was my top three.
Was this the easiest award in awards history?
Ever.
It was pretty.
The moment it happened, I went so nuts when it happened, and like by the time I sat back down 10 minutes after it, I was just like, that's knockout of the year. That's knockout of the decade. Like, it's written in stone.
In any other context, in any other year, Pereira's knockout of Hill is like lauded, is vaunted, and it's just like so far below. It's so far below. It's crazy. Like Max, what he did that night was special.
I have like a Google Doc with all the categories, and I don't usually go in order, but I usually just try to put in the easiest ones first. That was the first one I put in.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
By the way, to answer your question, I had to look back at this. The Izzy and Alex trading knockouts was a calendar year, but wasn't in the same year. So like Izzy knocked out Alex at the Alex knocked out Izzy at the end of 2022, and then Izzy knocked out Alex at the beginning of 2023. But in the same calendar, I
pretty unique.
I don't know.
You get what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade. It's just crazy that he delivered an incredible knockout and then got knocked out in the next. And you know, Topuria knocking him out. I mean, for the first time in his career, to me it was not down to anything other than the 300 one, but that was on the short list of honorable mentions
for sure.
No, the highs and the lows. But isn't that kind of like why we love Max Holloway, right? He's going to stand there with Ilia and he might get knocked out, and he's going to stand there with Gaethje and he might get knocked out, or he might deliver the best KO that we've seen in history. Like Max is a gangster. That's just who he is, and we love him for it.
The people, by the way, agree with all of us. Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje is their pick as well. All right, so we go from knockout of the year to something that is unique to mixed martial arts, and that's submission of the year. Had a little bit more trouble with this one. But I do wonder if we're all on the same page. Let us go to who is up next. GC, did you start that last one?
I believe it was Rick. I'm happy to start this one
go
off
ahead.
if you want. Yeah, I struggled a little bit, but it was still fairly easy for me. It was Khamzat Chimaev submitting Robert Whittaker. The face crank that broke his jaw. He did it in just about 90 seconds too. The efficiency with which he got the takedown straight into the submission. Then to do that to Robert Whittaker, hand him his first loss by submission in his UFC career. It was scary. To be totally honest, it was really it was just scary the way that he did it. So for me, to do that to Robert Whittaker with that efficiency, the broken jaw, the X-ray afterward, that one went submission of the year for me.
That was my pick as well. Just chime in. There were others that I considered, and we could talk about those in a moment, not to steal anyone's thunder. But the power, the force to do that to someone like Robert, and then the aftermath was pretty shocking. And maybe it wasn't like the most technical, clean one, but it was just like pure brute force to make someone like that quit, to make someone like that tap. Supremely impressive stuff. So Khamzat Chimaev and his face crank against Robert Whittaker at UFC 308 back in October in Abu Dhabi is my pick. Rick?
Just look at the X-ray. That's all you need to do. For me, it's Chimaev on Whittaker. Yeah. There it is.
Oh, there's the freaking...
Or not the X-ray, the photos. Yeah.
Yes.
Insane.
Petesy.
Yeah, same again. And really, the context of this one as well, we had seen, his armor tainted really by Gilbert Burns and Usman, two guys in a similar situation, you'd say, to Robert Whittaker, perennial title contenders. All of the talk was he's not going to be able to do that to Whittaker. Within 15 seconds, he was on his back. And it was more akin to something you'd see on Discovery Channel than you'd see on ESPN. It was like an apex predator going after his prey.
Yes.
To do that against Robert Whittaker, absolutely insane. I actually watched the fight again today, and it still impresses me. And that's how you know it's the one, when you're still watching it and you cannot believe, even though you know the result, you know the outcome, and you still can't believe it's happening. It's also the way Whittaker taps, and of course we understand why now because of what happened to his jaw. But to watch in real time, it appeared as though the crank had just been applied, and you had this quick tap from Robert Whittaker, one of the most durable and brilliant fighters the middleweight weight class has ever seen. So that's all the reasons I gave it to Chimaev for.
Love the way you just described that. Apex predator going after someone or its its prey. That's very, very apropos, especially when you consider the wolf and how ferocious he is. Some others that come to mind: Islam Makhachev's Darce choke against Dustin Poirier at UFC 302, Brian Ortega and his modified arm triangle against Yair Rodriguez, Paddy Pimblett and his submission win over King Green back in July, AJ McKee against Clay Collard back in February, and shout out to our good friend Virna Jandiroba with her submission win over Amanda Lemos. DDP against Israel Adesanya back in August comes to mind as well. There are several others. I'll give also a shout out to Anthony Hernandez against Roman Kopylov. Anyone else have an honorable mention?
That was pretty comprehensive.
I had one more. And
Yes.
shout out to Shaheen Al-Shadi, who for the uncrowned.com awards put together like a little document that had some on there. I didn't clock this one at the time, but I went back and saw Seika Izawa's ninja choke from Deep Jewels.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was gnarly. It was truly gnarly. So shout out to the atomweight
Love that.
who had that. And shout out to Shaheen for putting it on the radar. But it was a great choke.
Who might be coming to the UFC? That seems to be a strong rumor that they're going to be bringing over the atomweights. No intel on that one. I'm just saying this seems to be the talk, and she is at the top of that division. Okay, submission of the year. By the way, the people, they agree with us. Chimaev, Whittaker. Congratulations to Khamzat Chimaev. I had a lot of trouble with Breakout Fighter of the Year, guys, and we'll move along to that one. Not because there weren't any good choices, because I felt like there were so many good choices. I had a lot of freaking trouble with this one, and so I'll start this off. There were a lot of people that I was considering. It actually like really, this one really tied me. There were a couple that, last few hours we had a deadline where we had to submit these. I was going back and forth. I strongly considered Carlos Paredes. I didn't go his direction.
Wow.
I strongly considered Kayla Harrison, who I know was very successful in PFL and came over to the UFC with a lot of hype and a lot of buzz, but did great things at 135 pounds, but I didn't go in her direction. I strongly considered the Welsh gangster, Oban Elliott, who burst onto the scene in the year 2024. Can I be honest with you guys? And you might give me shit for this. I strongly considered Ilia Topuria because I felt like Ilia Topuria fought in June of 2023, got the title shot, and just leveled up. Like he wasn't being feted at the Bernabeu prior to his his fight against Alexander Volkanovski or after his win against Josh Emmett. Yeah, I know that Sergio Ramos was there, but it felt like everything changed for him. And so that felt like a breakout moment. But in the end, I went with a man who went 3-0 in the year 2024, who was featured on two of the biggest cards of the year, UFC 300, 303, and dare I say the three biggest cards of the year, 306 as well, and won every single one of those in very impressive fashion. A TKO win over Sadiq Youssef, a decision win over Dan Ige, on 2 hours' notice, and then, of course, a big-time decision win over Brian Ortega, where he seemingly knocked out Ortega in the first 30 seconds and then woke him up on the way down. Of course, I'm talking about the number one contender right now at 145 pounds, the man who will probably face the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkanovski, the great Diego Lopez. And I know some people might say, like, he was already a thing. He wasn't really already a thing. He was 2-1 in 2023. He was coming off a win over Pat Sabatini, a submission win over Gavin Tucker. Incredible, but he wasn't in the title picture talk. He wasn't being featured on 300 just yet. He wasn't being featured on the Conor McGregor card. Of course, it didn't end up being the Conor McGregor card, but that was the plan, 303 or Noche UFC card. He won all of those fights. He took a massive step, and now he's next in line. And now he's being discussed as potential Volkanovski opponents if, in fact, Topuria moves up. That wasn't the case 365 days ago, and so to me, that makes him the breakout fighter of the year, Diego Lopez. PT?
I have the nightmare, Mr. Pratis. You mentioned him earlier. He had not fought in the UFC before 2004. He was on the Contender Series, 4 fights, 4 performance bonuses. Absolutely injected himself into the title conversation. A guy that we didn't see coming, right? You listened to us talking at the start of 2024 when we're talking about welterweight prospects. It's Gary, it's Shavkat, it's JDM, it's Sean Bray to a lesser extent. He's right among them all now based on his performance in 2024. His character is very interesting. His fighting style is very attractive. I think it was a sensational year for him. And I thought Diego was right up there for me in my pick as well.
Rick?
I had the man you mentioned, the aforementioned Ilia Topuria.
Wow. I thought you guys were going to kill me if I went this route. So
I'm
not going to lie. This is actually right up Rick's alley because this is very Hamzat.
This is Hamzat. That's why I thought you were going to tell me.
But Ariel, welcome. Welcome like, to
very totally next
different.
up.
And I have a retort. But please
welcome
go ahead.
To this side. Welcome to the understanding of what this actually means.
Yeah. No.
Ilia Topuria, from where he, as you said it perfectly when you teed it up, from where he was then to where he is now. Nobody ascended higher. Like Alex Pereira last year had a year where he became the man. This year was a continuation of that. He continued to be the man and just continued to be the one that the UFC put on top of the posters, top of the billboard. Ilia Topuria was not that yet, but over the course of 2024, he became that, and he will be the one that carries the flag for them moving forward. To me, nobody came a further distance in where their Q rating and where their profile is now at the end of 2024 than Ilia Topuria. Other names you mentioned were on my list, but Ilia Topuria was my pick.
It's an amazing shout, and I was struggling mightily with this one. I really thought you guys were going to kill me because of the Hamzat thing. I think it's completely different because Hamzat has been a known commodity and a superstar for 5 years. We're just waiting for the formality to play itself out. Topuria wasn't that guy, so that's why I feel like it's different. It's a great shout. I have no qualms with it. I don't have an issue with the Carlos Paredes one as well, but Topuria really feels like he's on a different stratosphere now. What about you, GC?
I was actually ready to kill you on it, but you just kept moving forward, and now that Rick took the Ilia Topuria, I mean, it's very Rick-esque. I mean, it's very like the Hamzat for my pick. My pick, actually, I'm going to agree with Petesy here. I mean, came in relative unknown. I mean, he made his UFC debut this year and goes 4-0. Doesn't get a loss.
Yes.
4 knockout victories, 4 performances.
Oh, yes. Yes.
A great year for one Carlos Prates out of the Fighting Nerds. Goes in, we barely even know who he is, and now he's a ranked welterweight by the end of the year. 4 massive performances, 4 knockouts. Carlos Prates, my breakout Fighter of the Year. You want to talk about Breakout, the influence of this guy. I picked up cigarettes as a habit, $20 a pack here in New York City, all because of Carlos Prates. I'm that big of a fan now. I mean, it's just crazy. How could you not be a Breakout fighter? And also, just want to shout out Nightmare. Shout out Full Violence. Sit this bad boy over for us. Look at that.
That's a nice one.
Look at that. Shout out to Carlos Prates. My 2024 Breakout Fighter of the Year.
Can I just say, there's something about the tux and the way you're just like making love to that.
Brother, if we weren't inside,
You never
right
rip a
now,
cig with a
like,
tuxedo on?
I'm dying to get out in that snow to rip
I
this
feel
year
like
right now.
you've been here before.
Should I just go make my next pick from outside, like Carlos Prates getting one of his end of the year or end of the card fight bonuses?
I just feel like this is all very familiar.
Oh.
You know your way around that thing.
Cillian Murphy inspired. Watch a lot of Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Never smoked one of these before. First time ever holding one, actually.
Yeah.
I will say
doubt.
you're doing it well. It's
No
a true gift, like the
Yeah,
actor.
watched a
who
lot of
can-
Mad Men.
Yes,
John
yes,
Hamm.
yes.
This right here, like I would have no idea.
His facility's gonna
Careful,
come get me.
careful,
His
careful.
facility's going.
I would have no idea. That's
There's
tremendous
smoke
stuff.
alarm. cool.
in here. There's like 7 of them. Okay.
Right in
Yeah,
front of
don't.
you.
Okay.
The people, by the way, they went with Carlos Prates. How do you say it? You say it so well.
Prates.
Prates.
You're nailing
Prates.
it. You know.
By the way, in case you're wondering, the people are Frank, because I know some people have been asking, like, what are Frank's picks? These are all your picks, right, Frank?
Exactly.
You've been so quiet
Signed,
back there, Frank.
sealed, stamped.
It feels very reminiscent of the past 2.5 weeks on the group chat. I mean, Frank, when I saw him today, I was like, thank God you're alive, because I thought you were dead.
We don't care.
There was just like nothing.
He must have enjoyed his break because I saw him too. I was just like, Frankie, I honestly forgot you worked there, man.
Yeah.
You're going to come in 2025.
Oh, you guys didn't get the Frank phone call?
Uh-oh.
I didn't get it.
Oh, God.
Oh, I
I
got a
didn't
Frank
get a
phone
Christmas
call.
Day. Yeah.
Wow.
I give him a Merry
okay.
Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you're enjoying the time with the family text.
Let
Left
me
on
see what
red.
day it actually-
Wow.
Yeah.
Frank, what do you have to say for yourself?
Frank FaceTimed my whole family on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Speaking
Wow. I guess it's just me, Frank.
Is it?
It's a thing. Yeah.
Okay. all right.
But Rick
December
did
30th.
call.
Phone call from Frank Lenz. I mean, I just, tells where we are,
And did you pick it up?
Oh, yeah. We had
Wow.
a nice little chat. It was
Frank.
incredible.
Well, I'm still happy to see you. Do we need to talk offline? Do we need to?
I think just check your email.
Hey, man. Just wanted to make sure we were.
It's just been sitting in
we're
your
all
inbox
good.
for 3 weeks, and you're like, "Hey, Frank, everything all right?" I'm like, just waiting on your reply to that email that I sent.
Is that true? Now you're like,
How'd that desk shit go you had to deal with on the last day?
Oh man, the guy was 20 minutes late.
oh, that was. Oh, yes. Do you know about this story, PT? We all had a thing. Unfortunately, you couldn't be a part of it. We decided we've literally been talking about this for a month and a half, that we were going to go out and have our own Christmas party. There was
Must have
a
been
Yahoo
the other
Christmas
group.
party.
Yeah, I remember.
Nah, there was a Yahoo Christmas
all
party,
right,
but
all
we were like, you know what? Let's do our own uncrowned Christmas party. And so we went to the dumpling place across the street
Dim
over
sum
here.
place.
Dim sum, yes.
Dumpling.
And we were all very excited about it. And we taped 2 shows on that particular Thursday. It was the Thursday before the break. One was the classic interview show. And as I'm walking back to go to the control room, leaving the studio here, Frank is like power walking towards me. Hey, man, I forgot that I have to pick up a desk. And I don't know if I can make it. I have to stay 30 minutes, this and that. And it's like, yeah, like we changed days. We talked about this for a month. He's like, I'm hyperventilating. I'm nervous. Like, what are you nervous about? Like, if you can't make it, you can't
This
make
is
it.
what I'm nervous about.
It was just
Pick,
very.
pick up a desk. Pick up a desk is Frankenese for he's got a game of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, come on, Frank. I mean, and we had such a great time. We were all.
Yeah,
Hang on, it
Running our
actually
gar-
explains
short and
something.
sweet.
It actually explains something.
I didn't have
because
to be there when the check showed up.
I was going to say, you bailed on the bill.
Do you remember I got a picture? And
Yeah.
you all sent me a lovely picture for a meal. And what was the first thing I said in that group chat when I got that picture? I was like, Jesus, Frank looks pretty pissed off. All makes sense now. No
Pulled me by the
descriptor given
ear,
at the
Pete.
time.
They treated me like a child. They were like, "No, you have to come. At least spend 10 minutes, eat a dumpling." And I'm like, I really got to do this thing.
I mean, you made a commitment for weeks, and you're like, I'm not going to go to the company Christmas party, but I'll be at the uncrowned Christmas dinner.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
mysterious. It's very
Yes.
happy.
He said that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would've
Pete,
flew
actually,
out
you
just to let
sent you sent Frank looks pissed, and it was a big topic of conversation whether you're meaning pissed as in drunk or pissed as in angry.
Can't ever tell.
No, I was doing the American piss.
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
blend
yeah.
in with you guys. Yeah, yeah.
No,
Love
you're
it.
fully
Love
on
it, man.
board.
We-
Anyway,
we-
Frank, we missed you. We
Yeah.
missed you. And
Right back at you.
we all, talked behind your back. after
Oh,
you
my
left.
ears were constantly ringing, which is bad for an audio engineer. Just constant tinnitus. I'm like,
Yes.
these bastards can't get me out of their mouth for 1 second.
True or false, though, you really just like wanted to leave and didn't have anywhere to go, right?
I really had somewhere to be.
Yeah, all right. Let's continue, shall we? So, by the way, like I said, breakout fighter. The people went with Carlos as well. Let's go now to another tough one for me, a really tough one. Most improved fighter, because it's very hard to gauge most improved, right? It's like you can't really like look at the stats necessarily. It's kind of a feel award, if you will. Like, okay, who made giant leaps in your mind? Who's in a different place? And there's some similarities to breakout. In some respects, but usually historically, most improved goes to someone who's been around for a minute and all of a sudden took a big leap, improved. PT, why don't you go first?
Well, my guy hasn't been around a long time, I would say, but he did arrive. I think it was either 2022 or 23, and in the year 2023, he lost every fight that he had. In 2024, he was like a phoenix arising from the ashes. It is Mr. Inner G, Charles Johnson. He beat Hadley, Van, and Sumajeri. I can't remember the first guy he beat, but I thought he was absolutely exceptional. In nearly every single one of these fights, the undefeated fighter he fought in the first fight of 2024, I am forgetting the name of, well, the dude was like 15-0. And I was like, oh, they're serving him up because he had this bad 2023. And from there, he was just magic. Really, really excited to see what he can do this year. But I think as far as most improved, it doesn't get much better than 3 fights in 2023, lose every one of them. 4 fights in 2024, win every one of them. Charles Johnson.
What just happened there with that picture? Why was it on that black thing for that long? That was so
I was
weird.
waiting for the reveal. What
He said Charles Johnson at the beginning.
Well, there's a lot going on back there.
He said, I was like, is something happening?
Have a little patience, okay? 25 categories.
He said Charles Johnson.
Grace.
At the
I mean,
beginning.
look, we're all going to be on air today, so this is a 2-man operation.
All right.
Back
I
here
was
with
just saying.
Big Jordan and Andy. Give him a bit of grace.
All right. I wasn't sure if it stalled. I was like, we know it's Charles.
You gave a hand motion?
I was like, okay, yes, Charles.
We're working through the kinks, okay?
We're
We're
working
working award show in the new studio, working through the kinks.
All right.
By the way,
Yeah,
PT, Azat Maxim. Maxim. That was the first one.
Big Hadley, Joshua Van, Sumajeri.
Incredible.
Sumaderji. Yeah.
Great, incredible year for Charles Johnson.
It's a great shout. It's a great shot, and that right there is a great shot of you. Rick, why don't you go next?
This was difficult for me because I felt like there were quite a few who it could have been, and I had Charles Johnson on my short list. He was my number 3. But for me, it had to be Yusuf Zalal.
Love that one.
Great PT, you were talking about Charles Johnson's rough year and then the complete turnaround. Yusuf Zalal was on a similar losing streak in the UFC. Cut, lost, gone. Indistinguishable fighter in his second UFC run since coming back. Undefeated in 2024, 3-0, 3 subs. The guy just completely changed his game. And if you listen to any of his teammates talk, they talk about kind of what he was able to do and how he's able to transform his career. And when he spoke to Ariel on the Ariel Helwani Show, he talked about that transformation and what he was able to do to lock in and become a viable UFC fighter who's now riding a 3-fight winning streak, a 3-fight UFC winning streak. Yusuf Zalal, crazy how different he is from the fighter that we saw the first UFC run.
Could be most improved. Could be comeback fighter of the year as well. For the reasons that you just mentioned. Yeah, there were a lot to choose from here. He was great on the show when we had him a couple months ago as well. GC.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with Rick. I'm going to go with Yusuf Zalal. He got cut from the UFC after 0-3-1 skid. Yeah, he got a few wins on the regional scene and everything, but to come back into the UFC, and like Rick said, man, he looks like a completely different fighter at this point. 3-0 in 2024, and now he's got a fight next month, a top 10 matchup against Calvin Kattar. We could really see him spring into this in the rankings in this division. The turnaround has been unreal. I considered Joaquin Buckley for a while just because of his incredible 2024, but 2023, he was already a welterweight. He went 2-0 in 2023, so it's almost like he was just continuing his ascension. So for me, most improved, Yusuf Zalal, night and day from what we saw during his last stint in the UFC. Agree.
I was also considering him for comeback fighter as well. That will come up later in the show. I do want to give a shout out to the people. The people picked Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, like you said, Rick, a great year. I think you mentioned him, right? Did you not mention him? GC mentioned him.
I had him, though.
Yeah. Joaquin Buckley, again, a guy who you can have for, honestly, you can have him for most improved. You can have him for breakout. You can make a case for male fighter of the year. He won 4 fights in 2024, and I had him on my short list as well for most improved. To me, it came down to 2 people. It came down to Buckley and my eventual winner, who none of you mentioned, which is a little bit surprising to me. And it's interesting because my winner did not fight in the year 2023. He had 1 fight scheduled. It didn't come to fruition. He had a solid end to 2022, then was pretty much out of the picture in 2023, and then came back with vengeance in 2024. A decision win back in February for Drew Dober, a massive second round TKO win over Jalen Turner at UFC 300, and then ended the year on a very high note against Benoit Saint-Denis in enemy territory. We're talking about Money Moicano. What a journey this man has been on.
Yes.
Not only improved in the ring, but on the microphone as well. As a character, this is a guy who's been in the UFC for quite some time. He has been around the block, and to see him now in this spot is pretty remarkable. He made his debut in 2014. Who would have thought that he'd be maybe 1 or 2 away from title contention? He's fighting Beneil Dariush in less than 2 weeks. He has come a very long, long way, some ups and downs, and I don't think a lot of people had him looking this good this late in his UFC run. Money Moicano, my most improved fighter of the year. You like that one, Pete?
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Really, really
It's a
good.
good shout. Honestly, it kind of sends me through a loop thinking about he didn't fight at all in 2023, and that
Yeah,
crazy promo
it's a
he
great
cut was all
pick.
the way back in 2022.
2022, yeah. Another contender for comeback fighter of the year in some respects. So yes, Manny Moicano, what a run. What a run that he was on. And what a run that Joaquin Buckley was on as well. And all the shouts. But again, most improved, comeback, breakout, they're all kind of intertwined. So it's fun to to figure it all out. And so without further ado, let us go to Comeback Fighter of the Year. Our particular award show, we have Comeback Fighter and Comeback Fight. The difference is this is about a fighter who's come back after some layoff, trial, tribulation, something like that. And then Comeback Fight, it's, the ups and downs of a fight, someone who's getting dominated and then finishes strong with the victory at the very end. So that's the difference right there. Rick, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, it was difficult to not pick my second pick, but when the moment happened, I had to pick my first pick, and that's Francis Ngannou.
Ooh.
The Joshua KO. Now, I've gotten in trouble before for picking somebody that got knocked out in
This is
a
interesting.
comeback fighter.
This is interesting what's happening.
But to come back to MMA and to face the personal tragedy that he faced with his son, for me, it could be nobody other than Francis Ngannou. To even step in the cage, again, results matter, I suppose, but to even step in the cage as courageously as he did, having taken that time off from MMA, suffering that brutal knockout that he did at the hands of Anthony Joshua, he's a champion in every regard. And so the things that he overcame this year, to me, it had to be Francis Ngannou, and everybody else felt more contained to the fight specific aspects of it, but not only in the fight game, but also in his personal life to overcome what he did. It had to be Francis Ngannou for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting one because he did lose, but if you take that slice out and then look at coming back from the loss to Anthony Joshua in March and everything,
Leave the slice in.
Yeah.
That's part of the journey. This is what I've always said. This is how this goes. Like what he faced in this year and how he ended it. It's Titanic.
It is both in the ring, in the cage, and out of the cage. So hard to disagree with that one. GC, why don't you weigh in next?
Yeah, this one was a little bit difficult for me as well, but ultimately I had to go with the man who was entering this year on a 3-fight losing streak. Only 1 win since July of 2020 for the man, and now we exited on a 2-fight winning streak. That is one Petr Yan back against the wall against Song Yadong. I mean, if you lose 4 straight, you're completely out of the title picture. And now, after facing a surging Davison Figueiredo, picking up 2 massive wins, he is once again knocking on the door of the title, 1 away, in my opinion. To go from where we started at the year of like, this dude needs a win bad, to now 1 more and we're fighting for the belt. Incredible turnaround from Petr Yan, and happy to see him back at the top of the division.
PT?
Well, Rick referenced a pick he made several years ago that has, lived with him ever since. But I want to let you know, Rick, that the Ronda pick walked so this one could run.
Let's do it, baby.
My comeback fighter of the year is John Jones for 2024.
Not as bad.
The reason why he is because he is the subject of the biggest conversation in the sport. Ever since he's come back, he has injected energy into this heavyweight division that we didn't see coming. And honestly, he is the name on everyone's lips in 2025, should I say. What will John Jones do next? It's all I can think about. I get a question about it at least every week from the most random people asking me, do they think the fight will happen? I don't think he would have expected his comeback and his next move would be news in the way that it is. And I don't think you can ask for more than that. A guy who wasn't there, who then came back, had a fight, and the fight we knew he was going to win, right? Every dog on the street knew that John Jones was going to beat Stipe Miocic in Madison Square Garden, but it's what he's brought to the table because of coming back is why I've selected him.
Man. So I understand why you mentioned the Ronda Rousey pick, but I don't think it's as bad. Because she lost.
Rick, I admire what you do. I admire your bravery.
She lost.
I'm with you, Pizzi.
She lost, so he just gave her an award.
It's the comeback, not the result. I love you, Pizzi.
That's right.
Give an award for just showing up.
Thanks,
man. This was a tough one for me. Some other ones that I strongly considered as well: Charles Johnson, as we talked about; Yusuf Zalal, as we talked about; Dooho Choi, as we talked about. But he was one that I strongly considered. Petr Yan. What about Dominic Reyes, guys? Dominic Reyes had a huge comeback.
Good shot.
I'm shocked that you're not picking Reyes because then that means none of us picked him. And he was my number 2 that I was like, oh, I really want to pick Reyes.
I'm shocked. For me, it came down to Reyes. Shout out to Dan Hooker as well. He had a big comeback after a bad injury. It came down to 2 people. It came down to Dominic Reyes and then my eventual winner. And my eventual winner is someone that I feel very, very strongly about because I'm all about loyalty. I'm all about sticking by one of our own. I'm a foxhole kind of guy. I'm the kind of person that if you're on my team, I will literally go to the depths of hell to have your back. And I feel like that's the relationship that I have with this individual. Now, I don't pick them because of this relationship, but I just want to highlight that because I'm so proud of the steps that they had to endure in order to get back to where they ended up by the end of 2024. It's one of the most inspirational, it's one of the best stories in recent MMA history to not fight for 2+ years and then come all the way back and become champion. Not only become champion, regain your throne is not only comeback of the year type stuff, it's really inspirational. It's movie type stuff. And so I'll give it to one of our own. She's one of our own. The Venezuelan vixen is one of our own. Juliana Pena, my 2024 comeback fighter of the year. Shame on all of you for not picking her, for not having her back, to come all the way back and to win in dominant and decisive fashion the UFC Women's Bantamweight title back in October in Utah. It's one of the great stories of this past year. One of the great stories of my career. I mean, look at this. Look at this attack. And of course, setting up that massive fight. Fight, by the way, that I said I was really looking forward to come 2025, the showdown against Kayla Harrison. Juliana, we love you. We are proud of you. We support you. And we congratulate you on an incredible 2024.
Why are you smiling like that, man?
No, it's because Petey's talking and all this stuff.
Some kind of piss, Helwani. That is kind of piss behavior right there.
48-47 Pennington?
You know yourself. We were hacked on that Saturday night. That was unbelievable stuff from Juliana Pena. I mean, what do you guys have to say for yourself? The Parlay Boys in particular, not picking Juliana Pena is a bit of a shock.
Juliana Pena knows where the Parlay Boys stand, okay?
Comeback fighter.
Both of us picked her to be the champ at the end of 2025. This just feels like a comeback for you saying that Kayla Harrison's going to be
you know,
you
2024.
You called out the boys, but I just want to say in the 2025 prediction show, I was the only one
award show
who wasn't saying anything about old Juliana Pena losing her title. You know, I was the one who picked Valentina, female fighter of the year, and all these other things.
Zhang over here, thank you.
I didn't have anything about that fight.
Very surprised.
I got faith in our girl.
Very, very surprised.
It was me who picked Kayla. It was me who was speaking that real shit.
Yeah.
Don't forget it, right?
It wasn't a comeback because she was always the champ. She just didn't have her belt.
2 years out of action to come on. I mean, it might be the greatest
just
comeback
came
of
back
all time.
to the octagon to fight, but she did not come back in her career. She was already
even though we are like doing a thing like like it's an impressive story. Like the fact that the and she talks about it every time. Like the injuries that she deals with, the things that are preventing her from being more active are serious injuries, and to come back and win the belt after that time away, like, it's legit. Like, shout out to Juliana. It's a true accomplishment. And as you said, it now sets up potentially the biggest female fight in MMA that can actually be made. So yeah, huge for her.
The people, by the way, went with Dominic Reyes and Dan Hooker. There was a tie.
I'm shocked that none of us did, but none of these answers were like, it's like, I get every answer. So
the people know.
The people know. Dominic Reyes was one that I was strongly considering.
Yeah.
But Doohoo Choi coming back was impressive. You guys mentioned Zalal and Yan and Charles Johnson.
I had Moicano here as opposed to most improved because I feel like the skills are mostly the same, but I did feel like he had an incredible, much like Juliana, right? Like off and then back. That's how I viewed that. So I had Moicano here as well.
But only one of those fighters won gold in 2024 after a long layoff, and of course that's my pick. And one of
John defended gold, and Francis won the Bellator versus
one of them won gold. Defended gold, but she won gold. She won is different than defending, and we don't count that PFL super fight. Fakakta stuff. All right. Let us go to comeback fight. So again, that's fighter. Now it's a comeback within a fight. GC, why don't you go ahead?
Mic issue there. Yeah, happy to. I'm actually going to go to my man from down under, Jack Della Maddalena against Gilbert Burns. When I was watching this fight, I was doing it during a watch party, and I literally said on the watch party, I'm like slouched over all sad because I'm a big JDM supporter, and I'm like, this is over. This one is over. I called it. I called that it was over, and then 45 seconds later, I'm standing up screaming because JDM is getting a finish. It looked like he was about to lose, well on his way to a 29-28 decision loss. Gilbert Burns had him on the ground and was controlling him on top. JDM's able to get out of it, land a huge knee, and score a finish because he was going to lose the round regardless. So fights his way back, comes back, gets the victory. The definition of a comeback fight. So I will give it to Jack Della Maddalena defeating Gilbert Burns.
Okay. Very, very nice one. When I was saying comeback fight, I heard Petesy say like, oh gosh, something like that. Why was that? Was this a tough one for you?
Yeah, I went for the same one. I just thought I'd be the only one. So thank you very much for that, GC.
Shout out, Petesy.
No
ball.
There was obviously another big comeback on the same card that I was sure that would. I was trying to be a hipster here, so I've been double bluffed by the great GC. Same one from me. Fantastic outcome. I actually told a friend of mine. He was like, "Oh, he's a degenerate gambler," and he was like, "Oh, what should I bet on in this fight?" And I was like, "I wouldn't touch that fight, man." He's like, "No, but if you had to bet on this fight, what would you bet?" And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. In the end, he kind of pulls out of me that Jack Della Maddalena is going to win by KO. But obviously, as GC explained, the fight was going in a completely different direction. And I'm getting these texts throughout the thing. Then that happens. He obviously explodes. Fantastic stuff from Della Maddalena. And let's not forget that he had two very underwhelming wins before this. And there started to be this kind of conversation about, is he among this new class at 170? Is he like Shavkat? Is he like Ian Gary? This blew everything out of the water. He is right back in that conversation now, and he should be headed for title contention in 2025.
Love it. And hopefully we see him back in March, maybe against one Leon Edwards. We shall see. Rick, you go ahead.
Was that breaking news?
Bam, 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 bam.
There he is.
I didn't call for it. No. You can't aggregate
Aggregator
me.
sites get on
Don't
this.
aggregate me.
Oh, you're aggregated. You have been aggregated.
Oh, you hate to see it. The aggregation.
Can't party.
Confirm that. That's confirmed, Ariel, yeah?
I'm not.
All right, let's get it back on track. Neil Magny over Mike Malott. Just thoroughly dominated for 13 and a half minutes, and then somehow found it in the way that Neil Magny does sometimes. Against the top prospect in the sport. So yeah, Neil Magny, like this is what he does, but thoroughly controlled and beaten for 13 and a half minutes before he summoned it and pulled off one of the best comebacks of the year.
We finally agree, New York Rick and I. That was it for me. I've compared that one to the Rory McDonald Carlos Condit fight back in the day. And there are some similarities with the Canadian losing in the dying seconds of the fight. But yeah, this was devastating stuff for Mike Malott because it was back home in Ontario, in Toronto to be exact. And he was winning throughout the entire fight. It was last January. It feels like 10 years ago. He ended up losing at 4:45 of the third round, 15 seconds left in a fight that he was very much going to win via decision. And it was a major setback for him. Of course, he came back in November at that Edmonton card and beat Trevin Giles. But this to me was, I mean, this thing was done. There was no path to victory for the veteran Neil Magny, and he was able to turn around and win the fight. So my pick for comeback fight of the year, same as yours, Rick. Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. Magny's win over Mike Malott. Number 2, by the way, Islam Makhachev's win over Dustin Poirier. Just because it was being third. No, I'm kidding. But
no. But I'm really shocked that one fight. I was sure that Poirier v Saint-Denis was going to be in this. I thought everybody was.
That was a good one.
It was a great one. That's a honorable mention for me. That one, Pereira Roundtree. Some people had Pereira down 2 rounds before he was able to turn things around. Some other ones: Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez, Christian Rodriguez against Isaac Dilgarian, Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Mateus Rebecki,
Moicano versus Jalen Turner. I'm surprised no one said that. I mean, he literally he had him essentially out and just walked away from it, and then Moicano comes back and finishes him around too. It was incredible.
On there, Prochaska against Rakic.
For sure. Absolutely.
Shabazian against Dobson. Those are a few.
Mearshart Shabazian. That was my number 2. Like, that's Gerald Mearshart's MO to just get. And in fact, everybody leading into that fight was like, Edmund's going to nuke him early or Mearshart's going to survive and beat him late. And that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, that one was number 2. I wanted to give it to him, but I ended up with Magny because just how thoroughly he was outclassed for the first 13 minutes.
The people, by the way, they went with Ortega Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting dogged out until he got the finish.
Yeah. Let's go with upset of the year next. GC, take it away.
Yeah, I actually really struggled with this one. I went through all the title fights, all like the big stake fights, and there wasn't one that like really stuck out to me as like, man, I cannot believe that happened. So what I did, I went to the odds to assist me, and I actually forgot about this one because my upset of the year came in the friendly confines out in the desert in the UFC Apex buried on the prelims of the legendary Rosenstrike versus Godsiev card. And it is your man.
Yes.
The one, the only, Ayman Zahabi taking out Javid Basharat, handing him his first loss of his entire career. Went into that fight as a plus 575 underdog. Sets himself up with destiny, a date with destiny against Pedro Munoz in Edmonton AB. Gets a win there and now could potentially earn himself, or to win, got the win, earned himself a spot in the bantamweight rankings. So sparked it all with this huge upset over Javid Basharat.
We agree.
Let's go.
My pick as well.
I actually thought I was going to be the only one that took this one.
No, that was my pick. And, after kind of going through, there's a couple other ones that I'll mention once the boys weigh in. But there you have it. Javid Basharat, minus 900. Zahabi, plus 575 in retrospect. Maybe a little bit off, but of course, that's why they...
I mean, definitely a little bit off. He won the fight.
Well, I mean, like that freaking big. Jeez Louise. And what a year for our boy Zahabi. And also what a run that he's been on. He's won his last 5 in a row, 2-0 in 2024, won 1 fight in 2023. And so, yeah, good on him. And then he picks up the huge win over Pedro Munoz. That's my pick for upset of the year. Upset, by the way, based on the odds. Of course, we all thought that he would dominate, but you got to go with what the odds makers thought, and he completely nuked that. So shout out to Montreal's own Ayman Zahabi. Rick?
Yeah, you talk about the odds, plus 600 Gabriela Fernandez over Wang Kong.
Yeah.
Like just one of those that it felt like we were building to the Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya thing with her and Valentina Shevchenko, and then it just died on arrival when she got choked out. Nasty stuff. Huge spot for somebody who would have been easy to crumble. Wang Kong's got that swag. She's trying to do the intimidation thing, and it just blew up in her face. And plus 600.
It was awful,
it doesn't get bigger than that. Shout out to Fernandez for that.
That was my runner-up. It was between those two. And sometimes with the women's MMA odds, it's just hard to really gauge if they're able to nail them. I still feel like they have some issues with those. What do you think, Pete?
I'm the same with Rick. I was fully
behind the Wang Kong train as well. I was like, I love everything that's going on here. And to watch online as every parlay in mixed martial arts busted on, like, I think it was the first fight of the night, was very, very funny as well, because the odds were crazy. As well as this, like what Rick mentioned about the Pereira treatment, that's exactly what was happening here. The UFC had a grand vision of pushing this girl in against Valentina, and Valentina had been asked about her, and she seemed pissed off about it, and she was like, she has a lot to prove, and the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Yes, that like I said, that was a great one. Ultimately, went with Ayman Zahabi. The people, by the way, you might be surprised to hear, went with Bilal Muhammad over Leon Edwards.
Yeah, I was thinking people might do that, but there were definitely believers in Bilal.
I thought
and
Poirier
like a plus
well.
200. Yeah, Poirier over BSD, I felt like might have been more credible. Yeah, like going through the title fights and like the really big fights of the year, there wasn't like a shocking upset. Like Strickland out of Adesanya last year was just such a no-brainer.
Yep.
So yeah, this year this was a difficult one.
Rug over Antonio Malkin.
You know what? I have to admit, I forgot that one.
Yeah,
That might have been
That's a
my
great
pick if
shout.
I remembered.
That's a great shout.
Yeah, that might be. I might have to
I mean,
revise.
Malkin, he looked like unbeatable. Yeah, that's a great shout.
Anthony Smith over Vitor Petrino.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the Gilly.
brilliant.
Neil Magny over Mike Malott was was a bit of an upset as well.
Damn, Rug. Shout out Rug. I can't believe that. I forgot that one. Damn.
OSP
What an
over
artist.
Kennedy and Zetchiku.
Yeah.
Another one too. Yeah, I know. To me, it was the Rug, it was the Wang Kong, and then it was the Hobby, and I went with this. I don't even know what the Rug odds were. I just remember it being like, holy shit.
That's a holy shit for sure.
I don't even know. Do they even do odds for one? I guess someone.
I'm sure.
It's
but-
like every once in a while they
Yeah.
do. I'm actually
That guy's life is a movie as well. The Rug.
Yeah.
Oh, he's unbelievable. All right. Well, shout out to all those great, inspiring victors. Now we'll continue with that somewhat betting theme, and this is where GC drives the train. The next three are his particular awards that he has owned. We'll start first with the betting underdog of the year, and explain, if you can, GC, to the people perhaps what distinguishes this from maybe what we were just talking about.
Yeah, so we said upset of the year, kind of the one that no one had any faith in it happening. The people chose Bilal Muhammad over Leon Edwards, despite, Bilal Muhammad was only like a plus 180 there. Like, it wasn't the actual, to the odds, the biggest upset of the year in mixed martial arts in Las Vegas. So this is the actual betting underdog of the year, the biggest price tag you could get on a winner throughout the year. I am actually looking at it right now. Rug was a plus 500, so smaller than Zahabi and Fernandez, even though it was an incredible performance. The betting underdog of the year, though, PFL purchased Bellator, but Bellator never dies, baby. Home of massive, massive favorites, losing in very sound fashion, looking like they never even should have been a favorite in the first place. And that is where we head. PFL 1, San Antonio, unanimous decision victory for one Dimitri Ivy over Lucas Brennan. Lucas Brennan entered the fight minus 1,600. Hope you did not anchor your parlays with him. Dimitri Ivy gets it done as a plus 850 underdog on that fateful night in San Antonio.
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
Did you have any action?
No. I'm scarred from. There was a moment in time where like the Bellator intro hit, and it was just like war memories. PTSD was hitting from all the giant favorites that I have watched.
Crazy.
I have watched.
Did you bet on any Bellator fights this year?
Paul Hughes, but that was that PFL?
On a PFL card. I don't even know anymore.
Francis Ngannou? I don't know.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from the Bellator.
Yeah, it's a weird one. That's obviously going to be one of the stories to watch in 2024, or excuse me, in 2025. What the hell becomes of Bellator? They have this show that's not even being branded a Bellator show. And even when Don Davis laid out the events for the year, there was no mention of Bellator. As of right now, we don't know where those fights are going to air. The Dubai Champion Series card that's coming up on the 25th, which is solid. I mean, it's all about the Usman and Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes fight, and the build has been good. And by the way, it sounds like Paul's going to get that sponsorship that he's looking for. I'll let him break that news. But the build has been great. I just don't know what to make of the brand. So I say this all to say that those memories might just be a distant memory, and you won't have to worry about betting on Bellator fights anymore. Maybe it's all just PFL. So betting Underdog, we didn't ask the people for these particular ones because these are more data-based.
Who, me?
Unless you have one, Frank.
No.
No, okay. I just thought you were, raising your hand. What about lock of the year, GC?
All right, so lock of the year is the guy or girl that you can depend on throughout the course of the year. They're going to fight multiple times. You know you can just throw them in the parlay, empty the clip on them. You know that they're going to get it done with authority, too. You're not going to have to sweat it much. You can just trust this person, either just betting them straight or putting them in a parlay. I actually have a male and a female lock of the year this year. The male, we go right back to the pack, baby. It is one, Carlos Praches, 4-0, all wins by knockout in round 1 or 2. I understand the Trevin Giles debut. Yes, it looked a little bit dicey maybe early on, but he ends up getting the finish. And then from there, it was easy. He was always in that like minus 200 range, other than the last fight of the year when he fought Neil Magny, obviously was a massive favorite in that one. But I mean, Carlos Praches, you were getting your money back if you placed a wager on him. And on the female side, we actually go to PFL.
Oh.
Dakota Ditcheva. Same exact thing as Carlos Praches. 4-0, all wins by knockout in either round 1 or 2. They left no doubt each time they entered the octagon or the smart cage. My locks of the year, Carlos Praches, Dakota Ditcheva.
Can I suggest that you just always do the show with a cigarette? I mean, it just looks so...
Like 8 of them back.
It's not... It's like...
so
I don't just look cool right-handed, left-handed. I just look...
It's just there's
so hard to breathe back here.
And then you switch it up between the thumb and the index as you pull it out.
How do you do it so effortlessly?
He was doing smoke rings earlier.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, it might be worth the price of admission to just for how cool I look. It's just like, maybe I passed earlier, maybe it doesn't go well, but it's like, man,
do you need a drink there?
He looked fucking cool as here. You got a Negroni for me, Pizza? If I had a Negroni,
horse point into me.
He had his back up on the wall. He was standing up. He had one foot on the wall, and we were calling for him. And Andy was like, "Can you sit down?" He's like, "Give me a second."
You got it, right?
It's so like this is just him in his true element.
And as much as you love him, you got to look like you're suffering through a bit of anguish.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you do it so well. I've seen PT rip a few, and I don't know if he does it as well as you.
PT does it way cooler than me because he hand rolls his right before he does it. He's over there.
Right. Yes.
I'm a fucking cowboy.
He blows it right in your face. He's like, "You want to smoke?" It's like, PT, I guess I don't need it.
PT also really just barking up the tree when we were at the sportsbook in Vegas because obviously you've been smoking indoors and we're over there betting on the Bills game and I look over at PT's up. He's like, "You want a cig, mate?" I'm just like, "Yeah."
And every 20 seconds he's like, "You can really smoke anywhere, huh? Smoke anywhere."
My parents are watching this right now, mortified. Mortified.
This segment brought to you by the National Tobacco Association.
Brought to you by Carlos Praches' favorite, Marvel Red.
I love it.
You can't not rip cigs in Vegas.
9 out of 10 doctors recommend.
PT, by the way, why do you roll yours?
Because it's fucking cool.
It looks it fucking looks cool.
It just seems like more work.
I can remember
you pay the work to look cool, all right? I mean, you roll one up, just...
What is it you told me, Pizza? You were like, filters or weak sauce or something. You're like, I want filterless. I want to roll myself. I want to feel the tar.
I want to feel the death creeping into my lungs. That's what I want to feel.
I need to set up a meeting with an exec here. Make this, make it a a office again. We need to bring those back in 20.
Smoking indoors, there's nothing like the freedom.
I'm telling you, listen, personally, I kind of do hate cigarettes, but you put 4 walls and a roof around me, just something starts talking in my ear.
So nice.
You, nothing like cigs.
You were on fire.
Nothing like cigs inside.
That was the big shock when I was in Paris for like everyone's smoking indoors as opposed to here.
And a lot of cool people in Paris. Am I wrong?
A lot of fucking cool people in Paris, man. I'm telling you.
Speaking of cool people, most profitable. I love the fact it actually looks like you're smoking right now.
Yes, let's continue. The most profitable fighter of the year. This one was tough. This one was actually tough. There was a lot of good competition here. Obviously, Ayman Zahabi, he got the massive upset, so I don't really love to include that just because like you don't want to anchor it on the one. I look more like consistently throughout the year. Renato Moicano, based on $100 bets, he finished up $510. If you just blindly threw 100 on Renato Moicano each fight of the year, you'd be up 510. But ultimately, I had to go with a man who's already been mentioned throughout this show. One, Charles Johnson, 4-0 this year, cashing as an underdog 3 separate times. If you bet $100 on Charles Johnson every time he entered the octagon, you'd be up $539, plus 190 against Azat Maxim, plus 110 against Jake Hadley, plus 195 versus Joshua Van, and minus 225 against Sue Maderji. All of these odds via Tapology. You know, obviously sometimes you get them at different odds, higher or lower. And all of this based on $100 bets. So shout out to Charles Johnson, man. An incredible turnaround year, an incredible performance. And if you're putting money on him, you're earning a lot. And I actually do have to say, I don't know if I messed this up or if
No, we're good.
You know what I'm going to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're totally good. Man, what a year for Charles Johnson, who, by the way, might end up being, Charles Johnson could be a breakout fighter for 2025. There's a very good chance he gets a title shot. I don't think the UFC is interested in Muhammad Makayev. It sounds like there's been some talks and nothing really going on there. You know, take that for what it is. They're sticking to their guns, which they're known to do, by the way. They can hold a grudge. I don't know if you guys know this, but they can certainly hold a grudge. And so, you know, maybe Charles Johnson fights back into the year for the belt. It's very possible. So remember that name. What about bad beat of the year?
Yes, bad beat of the year. This is my favorite category. I think a lot of people really enjoy this one. This is a bad beat is when you essentially have money in your pocket and the sport, Vegas, whoever, just comes in and takes it out at the last moment. You cannot believe it. It's when a winner becomes a loser, and you just cannot believe how that happened. And, you know, in previous years, it's been over-unders or something like this. This year, we have to go to the judges' scorecards, and we go out to Abu Dhabi, where Carlos Leal was, in my opinion, robbed blind against Renat Fakhretdinov. But we're going to go a step further. If you bet Leal money line, you made a fantastic bet. I mean, there's no arguing about it. But if you had Carlos Leal plus 3.5 points, which is where you add up all three judges' scorecards at the end, and then you get the differential, you made a winning bet that was taken away from you. This judge who scored it 30-27, Hadi Muhammad Ali, somehow scored this 30-27. You had money taken out of your hand because it was 29-28. It was 29-28, and you're like, all right, if we get another 29-28, we still win the plus 3.5. 30-27 by one Hadi Muhammad Ali. There was outrage around it. I mean, if you look back, all 16 media members on MMA Decisions had it for Leal, including 11 that had it 30-27 for Leal. The verdict fan voting, you can see there, they had it 29.09 to 27.96. I mean, I had it 30-27 Leal. I was convinced he won, and then robbed in a unanimous decision. And then if you had the plus 3.5, it's even that much worse. So bad beat of the year, Carlos Leal plus 3.5 points and Carlos Leal money line. I know that one hurt.
Love it. Love those specific ones. And so we'll keep it rolling. And we'll go with another specific one, which in the past has been somewhat controversial. We remind you that when we introduced this, when did we introduce this, Rick? We introduced this when you left the show and you went to work full-time in social media over at ESPN, yes?
I think that's it, yeah.
And so Rick wasn't a part of the show. We leave to go to ESPN. It's now what was it? It was we left in 2018, so we're doing the 2018 awards at the very end. It was December 31st. Or maybe we did it the following year.
I think it wasn't that first year.
Yes,
it must have been
because I went solo and we were very tight, like 2-hour show on ESPN2. It was a really big deal for the
interviews,
program.
The whole big
deal. The studio wasn't working. I mean, we all remember. Anyway, the following year, now you're like fully entrenched in the world of ESPN. Yes. I mean, I hardly speak to you. You're hardly in my life.
Oh, stop.
I mean, it's like totally different. I mean, I'm speaking to On Air Jordan more than you, for goodness sakes. And we decided a way to get you back in was to introduce Social Media User of the Year. And correct me if I'm wrong, you announced the award, and then within like minutes, you regretted your pick.
It. Yeah, it was a good pick at the time, but it aged like very poorly, like in the immediate seconds after. Like as soon as it was announced.
Who was it again?
It was Henry. It was Henry Cejudo.
You gave it to Henry?
Yeah.
And who did you want to give it to?
It was like Paolo. There was like 10 different people that it was just a better choice. Like
because Henry went like a little too
everybody
cringe.
Had been over the cringe by that point. Yeah. It reflected well on the year that had passed, but man, like as soon as the clock turned, as soon as the calendar page flipped, it wasn't so hot.
Yeah. So there you have it. It's a rich and storied
well, last year we got back on track. You know, so
who was last year?
Dylan Dennis.
Dylan Dennis. But by the way, we've had several, right? Because that was 2019.
There have been a few.
Yeah. I mean, you chose Dylan Dennis last year
in
a year that he was sued for his social media activity.
I mean, what better endorsement for the award? Let me just say, I want to say again, every year I consult with the man himself, the Kaposa, who this award is named after, by the way. The proper name for this award is the Kaposa Social Media User of the Year Award.
That's right.
Because nobody is more prolific on social media. You've even shouted him out at the beginning of the show. He is the wealth of knowledge about all things MMA, all things that are happening on social media, all things that are happening in the MMA sphere. I always consult with him because if it has his name on it, I think the least I can do is kind of talk to him.
Sure. And by the way, I just want to tell you, he's actually not watching right now because he's live blogging Dubai Fight Night 47. It's just getting underway.
You joke, but without him, then you don't get the KO of the year number 3 on your list. That is from Dubai Fight Night 64. 1000%. Shout out to him. He's an absolute legend. I always consult him. This year, I wasn't sure which way to go. I thought there was like a clear choice. I pitched it to him, and he felt like there were some other choices as well. It wasn't as like super obvious, but ultimately where we landed, Alex Pereira. Just a tremendous year for him on all social media. Shamba. We've got even like a little video package here. Remember this from earlier in the year where he's changing the guy's tires on the side of the road. Then we transition. We've got after this coming up. Wait, he's greeting the man whose tire he changed, by the way, that they captured all for his YouTube channel and for social media. Then
that was on the way to the airport, right, for 303.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the craziest year of his life, now he's here training with Sensei Seagal himself, learning the deadliest moves in combat from the master. And this is just like a small selection because everything he does goes mega viral. Here's him dancing in Korea. Like, the man has just taken over all of our platforms. If you go a day without seeing some great Alex Pereira content on social, you're probably not following the right people. So shout out to Alex, who I think elevated his game, took it to a new level. The YouTube channel was flourishing. He was everywhere. He's given the guy in South Korea, the same guy, the leg kicks and the body shot. Like, everything he did just went viral. Fitting, I picked him for my fighter of the year. Also the social media, the Kaposa Award.
Wow, way to reveal your fighter of the year award.
Oh,
Jesus. Did you forget that we...
For God's sake.
Whoops.
Maybe he's working us right now. Point is, you're 100% right. He's got a beautiful smile. He's got a great spirit. He came into the UFC as this somewhat like mute, stoic character who doesn't say much or doesn't have
Stonehenge. He was that.
He's this guy right here. He doesn't have much reaction to things. And then, look at him now. He's beloved. He is absolutely beloved. What a year for him, in the cage, out of the cage. It's a tough one to argue against. GC, very, very in touch with who the kids are following on social media. Do you have, do you have an issue with this pick, or do you like this pick?
None at all. The engagement rate, the willing to be playful and fun while also promoting his fights and everything like that. I like this choice. And also, the YouTube channel is blowing up.
Who else comes to mind? I feel like there's some others.
So we had I consulted with Kaposa.
Yeah.
One that I also thought that was in second place for me was Tom, right? I think Tom Aspinall had a great year.
Oh, I was
showing up everywhere,
and his
creating
YouTube was
the content.
Great.
His YouTube's been fantastic. I think Alex was a little more elevated. Alex was a little bit better. Tom was second for me. The one that we kind of talked about was like, who's more terminally online than John Jones? Like, is anybody more online and willing to go to battle over the littlest Twitter comment or X comment than John Jones himself? But ultimately, like, I felt like Alex just from the start to the finish kind of carried the year on social.
Tom would be a good breakout social.
Breakout social.
I feel like he really came into his own. But yeah, I'm looking through Alex Pereira's IG right now. I mean, he got into the skits. Like, he's he was getting on after DDP beat Izzy, and he's just like, maybe one more trip down to 185. Like, he incites stuff on social media. I mean, we had to change the topic of the show the other week because he tweeted about Magomed Ankalaev. Like, the more I think about it, this is an excellent selection.
No, it's a great one, and he's really showing a lot of range. I will say, bit surprised, no mention of Merab. I thought Merab really...
Merab would also be a great one. He dedicated his life to the sketches this year.
I feel too like much? That started last year, and I feel like when you're comparing and contrasting the two, there's the effortlessness of Alex, And then there's the little bit of you see the sausage being made with Merab, and it just feels like
I just feel like
they say he never misses. That is the definition of Alex.
Alex does not.
100%. But I felt like with Merab, he was a perfect example of someone who used social media to his advantage. He got, whether it was more popular or people hated him as a result, he just did it in a way where people felt some sort of way.
It's a completely fair point. This was my Cejudo pick of the initial. I don't feel like that was. I feel like the level that Alex went to this year is higher than the level that Merab went to this year. I feel like Merab had started this already. But again, not a bad pick. To your point, like both of those guys are a great example of somebody who doesn't necessarily have the ability to, like, on the fly to kind of be that, like, magnanimous, like, off the cuff kind of person who riffs. But if you give them enough time, they can show their personality, and they did it well this year.
Can I throw out a
great word?
It's a great word. Can I throw out an honorable mention?
Yes.
Now, this person can't necessarily win because they're not active, although they had a somewhat, newsworthy 2024. I want to give a shout out to our good friend Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, because what he has done with his YouTube channel in particular and his social media, alongside the prolific Michael Wansover, nothing short of amazing. He is more respected and more beloved to the point where his announcement where he retired was such a huge story, and he hadn't fought in a year. 10 years ago, people are saying, like, oh, no, DJ, we don't care. Oh, and we're trying to explain, like, appreciate this guy, while he's still around. What he's done with his Mighty Cast, with his YouTube, with his podcast, with his social media, pretty damn amazing. And not everyone could pull it off because they don't have his personality, they don't have his energy, they don't have his aura, as the kids say. But he has translated this fight career into this amazing media career, and has done it on his own. Right? He's not on ESPN. He's not on any other network. He's not on any other major platform. All on his own. Pretty damn impressive.
I like it.
He's like an MMA Carl Froch, you might say.
Oh, I mean, let's not get crazy. He believes that the Earth is. No, actually,
a circle.
Yes, Carl Froch is actually doing great on YouTube, and I mentioned this on the show before all this nonsense.
Hey,
I'm not trying to take you down this.
Good to see
Stop.
It's gonna keep. Oh wait, there's another one. I thought it was the. What's the?
Who gives a flying fuck about
the
Carl Froch or what he's got to say? Is anybody really interested?
I shouldn't have done this. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry.
okay.
Let's move it on.
We're trying.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies.
I heard Carl didn't.
I think
watch
it's
the Golden
Wusa.
Globes
I don't
last
think it's.
night. Oh, never mind.
Oh, the Golden Globes got one. Got it.
I don't think he believes in him, actually.
Did you guys watch the Golden Globes?
Yeah, I watched the Golden Globes.
My wife is really into
You wouldn't, Pizzi. You wouldn't.
I mean, it's happening at like 2 in the
I say
morning.
for everything
Morgan
else that's happening in
Flowers,
America, you know what I mean?
I mean, it was on the same time as Vikings Lions. I know
And
you were
that
up
was
for
a
that.
great game. That's what I was doing.
Can someone in a nutshell explain to me the difference between the Golden Globes and the Oscars?
So the Oscar is like
It's
a
like
guy.
Diet
The
Oscars.
statue is a guy, and the Golden Globe is like an actual globe.
No, seriously.
One
No,
is
just different-
purely film, one is TV and film, and it's a tier below the Oscar.
Just different voting bodies as well, right? There's a group of people who
Which
vote on
Irish
one.
actor won this year?
No one has ever gotten slapped during the Golden Globe. You're calling it a tier below.
You're 0 for 2 on this, Frank.
Wow.
I mean, I'm actually genuinely curious as to what the difference is, and I haven't cared enough. It feels to me like the Golden Globes, and by the way, hello to the Empire State Building. It feels to me like the Golden Globes are more of like an insider trade award.
Whoa.
No?
It's just a different award show, and they cover different categories, and they also do TV. And like Rick said, it's a different voting body.
All right. I saw Adam Sandler made a brief cameo in that.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
Shout out
So
to
the
Sandler.
Oscars are made up of an actual academy. Like you have to be voted in,
Chalamet.
and you have to.
What is that? What is this academy that you speak of?
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Grammys. Like you have to get vouched for by other members. You have to do your dues during the year, and then they ask you to vote. So like it's just a different voting pool. But you would be right in that the Oscars is a little bit more exclusive.
Okay. And also, no. Are there fans in attendance at the Oscars? Because it's a very small room, the Golden Globes usually.
What are we eating, Frankie?
Yeah, what are you eating, Frank?
I'm smoking a cigarette.
Okay.
Back off.
Do have some breaking news. Don't mean to interrupt your lunch, Frank. Quick pause in the action here. This just through the wire. Saudi Arabia to host the 2026 Royal Rumble. This is the first time that the Royal Rumble will be held outside of the United States. So next year's Royal Rumble. Remember, this time last year we were talking about our stories to watch in 2025, the continued importance and dominance of Saudi Arabia in combat sports. We've seen it in boxing, of course, wrestling, and now more and more in MMA. February 1st, there's that Adesanya card against Imavov, a fight night card. Not yet a big UFC pay-per-view, but some big PFL events. This is a massive deal. They've had PLEs in Saudi Arabia, but never before one of the big four. Royal Rumble, probably the second most popular one behind WrestleMania, coming over to Saudi Arabia in 2026. Here's a quote from the great Turki Al-Sheikh. Saudi Arabia's hosting of the Royal Rumble for the first time outside of North America reflects the General Entertainment Authority's ongoing commitment to bringing the world's largest and most important entertainment events to the kingdom. Through its partnership with WWE, we aim to enhance the entertainment sector and deliver a transformative experience that attracts a wide audience. He added, we are excited to see this historic event as part of Riyadh season's activities and look forward to providing an exceptional experience for wrestling fans around the world, whom we welcome to all events hosted in Saudi Arabia. WWE is a global enterprise, and it only made sense to expand our relationship with the kingdom by bringing one of our biggest annual events to Riyadh in January of 2026, said Nick Khan, WWE president. How about that? Pretty interesting, right?
How about that? You watching Netflix tonight?
I actually wanted to issue all of you some homework.
Is to watch it.
I would like everyone on the program to watch it.
I will be.
Trust me, it is going to be one of the biggest Raws of all time. Rumors abound of people showing up. John Cena scheduled, The Rock scheduled, Solo Sikoa against Roman Reigns, Liv Morgan against Rhea Ripley, Jey Uso against Drew McIntyre. But this to me is going to level up WWE, and it's going to make them. I mean, you go on Netflix now, and it's like it's all there. It's like right in your face.
Oh yeah,
it's in a different stratosphere now. It's going to be huge. They just posted before the show the cold open. It's incredible. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't partake because I believe Christmas Day is for the NBA. But no issues with Netflix on Christmas, right?
None.
With the NFL.
No, it was great.
It was absolutely stunning.
So it seems like all of that concern is gone. Obviously, I don't think this will do as well as Paul Tyson as far as like 100 million people watching at the same time. But it's a major milestone.
If Petesie's watching, I'm watching.
So I would like for all of us.
I don't love wrestling. I'm not like a diehard wrestling fan, but I love diving in every once in a while. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Nah, I'm gonna watch.
Dive in, and I'd like for all of us.
Well, now I have to fucking watch.
It's homework.
You're watching Petesy.
You're watching Netflix.
What time's the finisher?
This isn't like
Oh, it's like Elaine. There's no Monday Night Football tonight, babe.
Nah.
I'll go
She's
asleep at a
popping
respectable
champagne.
hour. And she's like, yes, thank God, finally.
All of a sudden, Petey's worried about sleep. This guy is staying up till 5 a.m. to watch the Buccaneers against the Browns on a Thursday night.
Playoff
And look,
implications, man.
you look at the fruit that yielded for me. The Buccaneers out of nowhere into the playoffs. I mean, magical story.
Rest in peace to my Falcons, man.
Shout out Baker Mayfield, incredible season. Mike Evans getting his bonus yesterday. Truly heartwarming stuff.
Yeah, didn't translate into a fantasy win that you guaranteed.
Came third, first time ever against NFL podcasts. I mean, I was
Pat yourself on
literally
the back.
celebrated all around Blanchardstown, around Europe. They had an award ceremony, and they were like the greatest mind in European NFL. And then the NFL actually tried to poach me from you guys, and I said, I'm not even going to have the conversation. All right, I don't even want to have the conversation, lads. So you should really be thanking me, Ari.
No, it was a great shout. It was a great shout. You really represent both of you.
Thank you, GC. GC.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to do it without you.
I'm a mere assistant coach in this one.
The draft process was stressful. It was strenuous, and you guided me so well. And look at the team at the end of it. There, I mean, the spine of that team is still there. Thank you, Josh Allen. Thank you, James Cook. Thank you, Bijan Robinson. Nothing but success to all of you in the future. Thank you.
Yeah.
You see this little
on air, Jordan says you're either first or you're last, PT. So.
And he'd know about that being a Jets fan.
Yeah.
Wow, right in the chamber.
Wow.
Right
I
in
wish I
the
still had some
chamber.
shirts for this.
Oh my lord! Wow. I think we need a pizza. By the way, the moves are incredible. I think we need some kind of pizza award. I mean, that was nuts.
Perhaps next year. It's a great point about the Jets, and I do.
Let's circle back to that one.
I do want to mention that I think that the presumptive 2024 NFL MVP, Mr. Josh Allen, was really a key part of your success over this past season. Was he not?
Until it came to crunch time and he cost us the semifinal there.
Yeah. These things happen. In any event, I don't know how we got down this path, but congratulations to both you and GC on a great fantasy showing. And are you back next year? Are you going to make this announcement now? Or are you going to do it again next year?
I'm going to take my talents wherever the best offer is.
Those fighting words.
So, we're going to have to see. I think after my display this year, I think it would be, it would be a tarnish to NFL to not have me involved next year, as far as I'm concerned. So
I agree.
I'm not going to make a commitment one way or the other, but I'll leave you with that.
Yeah. Chuck and I are fighting this week, by the way, in case you're wondering.
And it's a great game.
My Bills are playing his Broncos, so we're in a bit of a tiff, if you will.
He's gonna be on Friday to talk about this as well. So watch what you say. He'll be able to fire back.
No,
whatever you have.
Watch it. Come on. I mean, next week I'm worried. This week, this is called a warm up act, if you will. All right, let us move along. I had a really tough time. Speaking of tiffs. Speaking of beefs, speaking of rivalries, I had a tough time with this one, guys. I didn't feel, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't feel like there were any true blue. Like in the past, there have been, DC Jones, easy. Aldo McGregor, easy. And then sometimes you go off the grid and you say like, Jake Paul versus Dana White. It doesn't have to necessarily lead to a fight. But I had a tough time with rivalry of the year because I didn't feel like there were any big ones that either came to fruition or that felt like they were like boiling over. And so I'll say there was a moment where I considered Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. I was thinking, okay, like that's a thing. Because when I think of rivalry of the year, I think of, all right, what did we talk about for the vast majority of the year? What matchup, what fight, what two people did we talk about from the beginning to the end? And I felt like that was one that was, ever since Tom Aspinall, won the interim belt, and then of course John Jones fights in November, it felt like something we talked about. But I feel like this year might be that year. And then honestly, I thought of Ilya Topuria versus Max Holloway because once Ilya beat Volkanovski, I felt like, okay, we all wanted to see the Holloway fight. Holloway takes the Gaethje fight. He beats Gaethje in tremendous fashion, and then it just kind of amplified the fight. But I don't know, it didn't quite feel like it was there. And then I went a little bit, I took a left turn, and I thought of the video that dropped on December 31st when Conor McGregor announced his return. He announced that he was coming back in June. You'll remember that was on New Year's Eve. And how many times did we talk about Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler leading up to June? And how many times did we talk about it after June? And of course, the year ended in a fashion that not very many of us could have predicted. Conor talking about a fight against Logan Paul, some talk of a Jake Paul fight, and then of course the civil trial going against him. And so it didn't quite end with this being a topic of discussion. And now I feel like it's nowhere near a topic of discussion. But if you go back to January, February, March, and then of course the explosion around June, and then it falling through, and then are they going to salvage it? It felt like that was the rivalry that we talked about for the vast majority of the year. So in the end, after not really finding one that I was enamored with, in love with, I went with McGregor versus Chandler. Petesy?
I went with Jones v. Aspinall, but I think that's a great pick in fairness. It was a roller coaster all year. Week to week, it changed so much. In December, I think a lot of people were like, this is going to happen. Then when Dana White reacted to McGregor's New Year's Eve tweet, I think that put water on it, but it was just constantly like that all year. So I completely understand that pick. Aspinall v. Jones dominated conversation in the same way, to the point where Stipe Miocic walked away from the sport with the greatest heavyweight champion of all time in the UFC, and it was, it was a subplot to the whole thing. So yeah, I understand your pick, but Aspinall v. Jones is mine.
Rick?
Aspinall v. Jones. Same logic, nothing more to add. It was the topic of conversation and the one that I felt like had the most heat throughout the year.
The other reason, by the way, that I went with McGregor Chandler is because it did lead to a massive gate. It just the fight never came to fruition. So there was economics attached to it as well. But don't hate the Jones Aspinall one, of course, as well. What about UGC?
Yeah, good shot. I'm actually going to go with one that we saw a fight take place. They entered the octagon. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. The lead up to the fight at UFC 300, the bloodied Easter Island head, the breaking of the arrow, everything like that, and then the knockout by Alex Pereira. You get the Khabib LeMay, and then Jamal Hill going on his YouTube channel. He's upset with how it ended, the referee, everything like that. Then, Alex Pereira gets asked at a post-fight presser, why was he yawning? And he's like, he must have just been waking up from UFC 300. They've kind of been going back and forth at each other on social media, on the YouTube channels all year long. And then at the end of the year, you get the video in the Apex. Alex Pereira says, put the gloves on, man. Let's fight right now. They're going at it. That leads to more content on how much they hate each other. They feel like despite a one-sided affair in the first fight, it feels like they're circling each other, and this is a rematch that we could see happen again. And it genuinely feels like these guys don't really like each other.
I love that. That's a great shout. And again, you tend to want to go with a fight that actually, or a rivalry that leads to a fight. Hasn't always been that case. I think last year my pick was Ngannou versus Dana White. So it hasn't always been that case, but that is a great shout. That is an amazing one. The people, in case you are wondering,
Aspinall Jones got to be right.
Went with Aspinall Jones.
There's two that did lead to fights that I had on my short list as well. They feel a little bit dated now. They feel like we moved on so quickly from them, but I do feel like at the time that they happened, they were significant. Muhammad Makayev and Manel Kape, brawling in hotel rooms and chirping back and forth, that felt like it had some heat. I think the one that cooled that one off was the performance in the fight. Both of them just didn't want it. It seemed like neither of them wanted to even fight. So it was an unfortunate kind of culmination. It had Rashad versus Rampage vibes for me, where I was like, oh yeah, these two hate each other. And then it was a boring affair. And then this one has really lost some steam, but in the build up to it, Dricus versus Israel Adesanya was blood feud, was territorial rivalry to the point that it was extremely emotional on both sides. But then because they were so cordial with each other after the fact, I think that one really lost that steam. It kind of got put to bed. But those two in the moment felt the biggest that did culminate to me as rivalries.
So am I wrong in saying that Izzy DDP felt a lot like Jones Rashad back in the day, where it was nuclear hot, and then by the time we actually got to the fight, I didn't feel the same type of heat attached to it for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think you're right.
You had the press conference. It was fine. I don't know what it was. It just, and maybe it was Izzy not fighting for a long time, or I don't know. But by the time we got to that August fight, I didn't feel like the world was foaming at the mouth to see these two guys. And I don't think I would have said that after their confrontation, that head-to-head in the cage in July of 2023. It just felt like it sort of crawled to the finish line. You know what I mean?
I think much like those two fights that you pointed to, Jones and Evans and Adesanya and Dricus, they started much hotter and then kind of lost steam. They started supernova bright because of the stories and then kind of lost steam. I think the participants tried to cool it a little bit, right? I don't think Israel and Dricus made it as messy and as nasty as it started. And then as that, they kind of set the tone for that. They set the temperature. But even when it did arrive, I did feel like those two felt like big time rivals, and it felt like it was going to be bad blood. And then afterwards, it was a little more cordial than expected. So I think it lost steam. And I think both that fight that you compared it to also kind of felt that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, the people agree with both you and Petesy. Rivalry of the Year, Aspinall Jones. All right, let's continue now and go with Coach of the Year. Back in the day, guys, we used to also have Gym of the Year, Team of the Year. I feel like we're kind of moving away from that, where there used to be 4 or 5 big ones. There was ATT, there was TriStar, there was Jackson Wink. You had the days of the Black Zillions, SBG Ireland. You had your big ones, but now it feels like things are becoming a little bit more like boxing, and so we narrow it down to just Coach of the Year. PT, why don't you go first?
Well, it's funny you should say that because I picked Fighting Nerds as my pick for this.
Wow, that is weird.
Pablo Sucupira, I believe his name is, and I probably didn't pronounce that right, is the head coach of that gym. But I just, you know, you named some gyms there, and it does feel like a real throwback. It feels like you hear about these guys and you want to see it. You want to be in that room to see where all this magic is coming from. Rufy, John Silva, Carol Bialo, Bruno Brazil. There's loads of people in that gym. Carlos Pratis, of course. So yeah, it just has one of those feelings to me this year where they were the happening gym. You know, it felt like a lot of people had really positive feelings towards them. We saw John Jones even wearing the glasses that those guys rock. So that's what I went for this year.
Seems like they're all just having a great time. Right?
Yeah.
Like you just want
a
to
feel good
thing.
Yeah.
And the gym looks damn cool too. The mural with the Ali and the Bruce Lee and all that. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. That's an interesting one. I wasn't expecting you to go there. What about you, Rick?
Pablo Sucapira.
Wow. There it is.
Fighting Nerds is just undeniable this year. And
what's their record? Do you know what their UFC record is?
Oh boy, I don't. GC had it at
Most
some point.
fun.
Yeah, they went undefeated between Jean, Caio, Huffy, and Praches. I want to say Bruno Brazil may have lost a couple times, but
She lost, yeah.
Yeah, it was something like 10-2 or like 11-2. They had a really impressive year.
Love it. All right, GC?
I actually thought about going with Pablo.
Okay.
I love the Fighting Nerds. Thought about showing them some more love, but there was one MVP this year in the UFC, and that was Alex Pereira. Saved 300, 303, 307. Didn't matter. Short notice. You know, call him. He's there. And who was by his side throughout the entirety of it? Who was there? The man in his corner. The man sitting next to him on the plane, stuff together. One. Plinio Cruz, coach of the year for 2024 for me. A very, very incredible year for both of them.
Plinio Cruz, not only coach of the year, perhaps interpreter of the year as well.
I mean, he does it all. He does it all.
Fabiano is the GOAT. But
honestly, when they post those videos of like them in the car or them on the plane, and it's just like, just got the call, it's time to go save the UFC again. I imagine Plinio's also just brokering the deal as well. He just does everything for him.
He's the man. He's the freaking man. It was his birthday recently as well, so happy birthday to him. A great coach, a great mind. Believe it or not, gentlemen, I disagree with all of you. How about that? A bit surprising. Yeah, so this was a tough one once again. You know, it's a little bit different. The times have changed. But you're right. You're right. There was an MVP this year, GC. And you're right. He's someone who we've talked about throughout the program. We may talk about him towards the back end of the show as well. And you know what? You are right, GC. That MVP for 2024 is, in fact, Mr. Alex Poatan Pereira. But here's where I differ, because I cannot just give the Coach of the Year award to one individual. We go back several years ago when we gave the Coach of the Year award, the prestigious Helwani Nose Coach of the Year award, to both Mark Henry and Ricardo Almeida for the year that they had. I think it was back in 2017 or so. And so I draw from that. It's shades of Grant Hill and Jason Kidd winning the Rookie of the Year way back in, I think, 1995. Co-winners, my Coach of the Year, co-winners, Plinio Cruz, and we cannot forget about Glover Teixeira, who I don't think gets enough credit for the evolution of one Alex Pereira. They are both by his side. It feels like it's a committee over there. And yeah, Pereira's had an incredible year, and what they've done with him in particular. And now you're starting to see people come from all over, the likes of Sean Strickland, obviously the great Dylan Dennis, Action Bronson training over there, little known fact. Those two are my coaches of the year.
It's a great call, man.
Why
didn't
you
disagree?
Why didn't you give love to Glover?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Plinio's always just on the forefront of everything. He's the one, down in the trenches, every single training session, everything like that. So, yeah, I just wanted to do one Coach of the Year. I'm sure there's many other people helping out at Fighting Nerds. Both of them went with just the Pablo, getting the love. So I love the Glover, man. I mean, I know he is very important in this whole process as well.
All right. So there you have it. We'll keep. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot about the people. The people said, I screwed up here. I screwed up again. I got off track when I started to read that Saudi Arabia thing. Wait, please. And again, thank you so much to A-Dub.
Come on, mate.
And moderate. What? I'm just trying to buy some time. Plinio Cruz, Coach of the Year, according to the people. So they agree with you. I feel, I love Plinio. Love him more than most. I mean, he's an incredible guy. But I want to give Glover that love as well. And I love the bond that they all share. Let's go to Event of the Year, gentlemen. And so this is just the best card. The one that had it all, the one that delivered, the one that was just great fun. The one that we had high expectations that perhaps over-delivered, perhaps exceeded said expectations. Rick, why don't you go first?
One of the easier ones for me, UFC 300, top to bottom, the best of what the UFC can do, and met the expectation and delivered. I mean, we got some of the best knockouts of the year, the best moments of the year, top to bottom stacked. What more could you ask for? Easy call for me.
GC.
I agree with Rick. This was one of the easier ones. I mean, I know there was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of hope about what could come from it. Some people may have been disappointed, but when it push came to shove and it was time to actually have the fights, this one delivered. I mean, take away the name UFC 300, take away all the expectations that were there. I mean, you had Figgy choking out Cody Garbrandt in the curtain jerker. You had that incredible comeback from Renato Moicano. You get the iconic knockout from Max Holloway, the iconic knockout from Alex Pereira, Kayla Harrison making her UFC debut and getting a finish there, Diego Lopez getting a 90-second finish against Sadiq Youssef, Armin Sarukian, Charles Oliveira in a potential title eliminator, Bo Nickel, the Yuri Prochazka comeback, the Aljamain Sterling making his debut at 145. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It was an incredible night for mixed martial arts, an incredible card. I just don't know how you could choose anything else topping it this year.
Great rundown. Pete, agree?
Perfect time, and I don't know how you could pick anything else. I've picked UFC 306 at the Sphere.
At the Sphere, wow.
Brother, what?
This has to just be for the Sphere.
Did I speak while you were speaking?
Let him speak.
Did I speak while you were speaking? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I don't like to lose my composure like this, especially when I'm dressed like this. Sorry, GC.
After Negroni.
No, it's okay. It's okay, man. I know you have
I've had
5 or
4
6
Negronis, right?
It's okay. It's all right, man. I understand.
Got a bit heated there. Sorry. But this needs to be commended, what they did here. You're right about UFC 300, and it was the fact that everyone in the lead up to UFC 300, specifically a few people in this group, were quite critical of that main event. Everything delivered. That's fantastic.
Me?
But 306, this undertaking that they were going to do something special, and the fact that they did that, everything's so cookie cutter all the time in the UFC. To see them go out and try to do something bigger and achieve something bigger as they did, I think that needs to be commended. It was different. We've never seen anything like it before. So that's why I picked UFC 306.
That was my runner-up. And because we talked about it for so long, and because as an event, it was must-see, right? How many times in MMA these days are you like, I need to be sitting down for the first fight. I need to be sitting down just because I want to see what it's like, right? A lot of the events look very cookie cutter and look, no matter if they're in Saudi or London or Rio or Edmonton or New York or Vegas, they all look the same. And so this felt like an event. Oh my God, we have to be there. We have to see it. We have to experience it. There was so much talk, how would it look and all that stuff. But ultimately, I don't feel like the fights lived up. Like afterwards, the talk was a lot about the production and not necessarily the fights. And so that's why I went with UFC 300 because, look, UFC 300 was maligned, and there were times where it felt like we were getting there. It's like, what is going to headline this? And Lord knows that was one of the stories of the year. I think it was, in fact, my story of the year. What is going to, or actually, I said the Saudi thing, but it was up there. What is going to headline? And there were all kinds of rumors and all kinds of drama attached to it. But it was just like boom, boom, boom. They all delivered, and then some. And so it felt like everyone was watching. It felt like a massive moment for the UFC. And by the way, shout out to the UFC. They made it feel special. Remember the old graphics that they did and just some of that stuff that historically they don't do that I'd love to see them do more of, a tip of the cap to the past. I really enjoyed the production and then the fights delivered. And so with 306, I enjoyed the production, but the fights weren't anything like to really write home about.
One of the fights of the year on the card. One of the fights of the year.
Sure. And the other fight of the year, in some people's eyes, was on 300. But
not yours, though.
No, not mine. That's why it's my runner-up. Some others worth mentioning, Topuria Holloway, UFC 308 in October, UFC 299. And I'm going to mention a few here, courtesy of our friend Kaposa, just to show how much of a encyclopedia and what kind of a sicko he is. Dogfight Wild Tournament, Second Impact. KSW 90, LFA 178, Super Ryzen 3, Ryzen Decade, which
who could forget Dogfight, honestly.
Came and went. And I love when he wrote this to me. I love Riyadh Season presents Noche UFC 306, because who could forget that it was Noche UFC 306 presented by Riyadh Season.
Who could forget Doug Ford? What a line.
Beep. The people, by the way, they went with UFC 300. UFC 300 for the win. All right. We now, I like to have a theme here. So let's go to crowd of the year. One of my favorites, by the way, and it was tough during the pandemic, to have crowd of the year. Those were some lean years, if you will, but we're all the way back. Dana White said we're all the way back. And so shout out to the crowds. GC, why don't you go first? Man of the people, picking the best crowd, if you will.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a fight night. You got a packed arena, 16,000 people in there. You got a lot of hometown fighters on it. I'm going to go with UFC St. Louis back in May. You got Joaquin Buckley, you got Sean Woodson, you got Charles Johnson going on there. And to me, this is like the epitome of what a fight night should be. St. Louis is probably not getting a pay-per-view anytime soon. They're starved to see the UFC come to town, and when they do, the fans go hard, and they did it perfectly by putting hometown guys that really rep the area on the card. So when they were able to come out victorious, the crowd just got that much more into it. UFC St. Louis was impressed with how raucous the crowd was there.
I do hate to interrupt very briefly here, but our beloved Nottingham Forest have just scored 1-0. Second. I don't know if you know this, but we're second in the Prem.
Who scored?
Right now. That would be Morgan Gibbs White, MGW.
Oh, my God. I put Chris Wood on my fancy football team. You can't score for me.
You know we're second in the Prem right now. You guys, you realize this? We're second in the Prem.
Technically third.
No. We're second. If we win today, we are tied for second with Arsenal. Okay.
But then when the goal differential.
Fuck the goal differential. We're fucking second. All right. We're fucking second. Tuesday we were relegated. They said we were going to jump off. They said we're going to jump off the bandwagon.
Do you know what? February's going to be a great month as well because you don't have European football. You're going to have a great February.
And anyway, I'm sorry. It's a great shout. PT, why don't you go next?
Mine is PFL Europe 1 in Gay Paris at the Bercy Arena, as you know so well, Ariel.
Yes. I was there.
I was there back in 2014. Lots of people say they were, Ariel, as you know, because you were there too. But it's a rare situation when you feel like you're in the belly of the beast. You are, you're in the hotbed of MMA. And that was so clear to me that night. In the foyer of this place, they had the paparazzi set up to take pictures of the celebrities who are coming in to watch Cedric Doumbé v. Baki. Two guys that the rest of the world, they don't care even an iota about as much as the French people do. There was amateur guys. There was a guy, he was 1-0, a Belgian kid, as he was coming out. I'd never heard of the kid in my life. Everyone in the arena, it was as if Conor McGregor walked out in Ireland. Just an unbelievable crowd. Obviously, there was all these celebrities there, like Jabril Cisse, the football player, Vincent Cassel, a very famous French actor. And it was just the whole place was spinning. The crowd is different to the media usually, but I would include the media in the crowd in this sense because when Cedric Doumbé walked out, they were climbing on each other's shoulders like a rugby scrum to try and get a better image of him. Like the media, complete fanfare on press row as this guy came out. What added to this whole thing of me remembering this crowd was the fact that it ended in such controversial fashion. You'll remember Mark Goddard waved this fight off as Cedric Doumbé complained about a splinter in his foot. Mark Goddard in that moment becomes a pantomime villain. It's no longer a fight. This is you're on Broadway. This is a theater. People are nothing short of throwing fruit at the man as he makes a decision. I completely understand to this day. Even outside afterwards, we're walking down Rue de Bercy and people are devastated. You can see them talking to each other. How did this happen? How did this happen? Meanwhile, a small pocket of Baki fans are running around shouting in their faces. It was just amazing to be in a place like that where people are feeling like that about the sport again, and that's why I've picked PFL Europe 1 in Paris, France.
Man, you've painted a brilliant picture. By the way, as an aside, has Doumbé not recovered? I know he came back, but I don't feel the same type of momentum. Has he not recovered since then, or is that not accurate?
No, I think he has to some degree. Like, I think if they did that Baki rematch, which he said they would in that finale, that PFL finale, the European one that you couldn't watch, he mentioned it, that he would rematch Baki, who was supposedly meant to sign for the UFC, as far as I could recall, after that fight with Doumbé. He said he's going to rematch him. I think that fight, being there that night, and you could have cut the tension with a knife. I think if they do that again, it will put him right back to where he was, provided he can get the win.
Yeah. Shout out to Paris. And by the way, an incredible showing at the Olympics. I know, as an aside, but what a time in French sport. The fans were just unbelievable during that stretch, and they have been a revelation in both MMA and pro wrestling. Not necessarily in boxing, nothing really going on over there in boxing, but certainly in MMA and pro wrestling. Pretty remarkable. What about you, Rick?
This one was a lock for me. The Manchester crowd at UFC 304, those crazy bastards that
that's a good shout.
Stayed for that. They deserve something because they were put through hell as were the fighters. So if I can do nothing else, I'm giving you this. I appreciate you, people of Manchester, who stayed up for that absolute middle of the night card. And so congratulations. You're my crowd of the year.
That's a great
for going
shout.
through hell.
It was either one or the other for me as well, Rick. I like that one, yeah.
I went with the Moicano Saint Denis Paris crowd. I thought they were loud, they were raucous. I mean, remember that Brian Battle promo? They are like, it sounded like bees swarm. They were so loud and they were so vociferous. They have always been incredible, and I feel like they get better and better each and every time out. And so I don't know. I don't know how we distinguish between the PFL crowd and the UFC.
It was because of the refrain, though. The Backy, Seymour.
Yeah,
that was, come on.
Yeah, and actually last year I gave it to the PFL Paris crowd.
Yeah.
For that initial Doumbé fight. But I thought that they were incredible. I love how they sing Le Marseillaise during the main event. I love that routine. And so ultimately I went with the UFC Paris crowd back in September, and the people agreed with me. In case you were wondering.
Casuals.
Yeah, By the way, were you at that event, that March event, PT?
No,
you weren't.
Oh, which one? The Doumbé one?
Yeah.
Which one? Yeah, I was at that. Yeah,
that one. Have you been to both, or was that the first time?
I haven't been to it. No, I haven't been to a UFC event there.
No. Did you go to the first PFL Paris one? His debut?
The one with Mbappe? No, I wasn't at that one. No.
Okay, you've just been to that one.
Yeah, but the first one was it was in a much smaller venue, so I'd say that was wild. That was the reason why I was like, if he fights in Paris again, I've got to go.
Right.
And I honestly, lads, you're in Europe, you're in the UK, wherever you are, it's a very cheap flight. It's a great night. You got to go over because it's very rare that you'll be in an atmosphere like that. I was the only English speaking guy there. So I was just by myself, completely immersed in this experience, and it was fantastic.
I mean, honestly, crowd of the year just has to be the French fans. If we're being honest,
that's right. That's fair.
We could split it, via the event route, but to me,
they're amazing.
They are unbelievable. There was a WWE event in Lyon in May, and I couldn't believe it. The chants, they're up the entire time. And then what I love in particular about the PFL Paris shows is that there's these local guys and these regional guys that they treat like superheroes. Yes. They have chants for them. They know their backstory. Like, they are fully immersed. And I love seeing, French MMA and combat media outlets starting to come up. We've mentioned last show. By the way, shout out to the great Netflix series Le Cage.
Oh,
or is it La Cage?
I believe there's a guy.
It's not a bad little binge-worthy show, if you ask me. A real nice look at the world of MMA through the lens.
Cage.
It's quite nice. It's quite nice. Just want to shout them out as well. It's just an explosion. It's an explosion over there. So shout out to the French.
But it won't last forever. That's another thing. I thought we had lightning in a bottle here, and fair play to Bellator for dragging the arse out of it for years after, and getting big crowds into the 3 Arena and all that stuff. It is rare that these things happen. It's going to be another country soon. It'll probably be Spain, and the French guys will be like, "Oh, I can't believe it was only yesterday when all this stuff happened." It's very, very rare. So get there as quickly as you can. You mentioned Leon in December. Lazy King fought there, a guy who might not be very well known across. 10,000 tickets sold. Sell out. It's incredible.
Sing it with me now. And then you that, by the way, Frank, that's not the Beatles song.
Oh, damn it.
I think I went for the Brazilian national anthem there when you went quiet. I think I went straight into it.
Speaking of music, let's transition now to Walkout of the Year. Always a favorite. And this is one where you can go all over the place, right? Like you can go to some of the lesser known shows overseas in Asia in particular. You could go with the UFC one. You could go if you want with a PFL one or one championship one. Who knows? Who knows what direction we'll go in? GC, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go overseas, and I'm going to head to KSW 94, none other than our man Artur Spilka.
Wow.
With maybe one of the most creative walkouts, most effort put into a walkout that I've ever seen. He comes out in the Friezo chamber. I don't know if this is Goku-esque or something, but I mean, it looks like
amazing.
he's just regenerating in there. He's just getting ready for war. Has the whole crew wheel him out. I mean, then he gets up on the big screen. I mean,
That
this
is unbelievable.
This is production at a level we rarely see
Holy shit.
in MMA walkouts. I mean, look at he's on the big screen. There he is, rising up from the stage.
Wow.
He will. I mean, I thought about doing maybe Dustin Poirier. He got the incredible music to walk out to, but this doesn't get topped. There it is.
That's
rips
incredible.
off all the monitors and everything. He's ready for war. He's fully regenerated back up, and it's time for Mr. Artur Spilka to head to the ring. Unfortunately, knocked out in the first round.
Listen,
but the
listen,
walkout was
those are,
great, man. The
these-
knockout was great.
Shout out to Pudge.
Oh no, this is a highlight of his. He looks great
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, here are the highlights. Let's show the highlights.
Yeah, behind the back, back of the head.
Yeah, back of the head there.
But the walkout is great. We're here to celebrate walkouts. We're not here to celebrate performances in the
The
ring.
results are
300
just
years
like
old.
small details.
Cryogenically frozen. It's amazing.
Yeah, cryogenically frozen, everything like that. Knocked out in, it was 14 seconds, actually.
Wow.
After that walkout.
Wow, after
Maybe-
all that.
maybe
You have to
throw-
rejuvenate.
Maybe throw it on the rejuvenator just a couple more minutes. Either way, incredible walkout.
That is an incredible walkout.
Shout out to Artur Spilka.
Wow.
Shout out to KSW, one of my favorite promotions.
Absolutely. Production value. They keep it a buck over there, don't they? What about you, Pizzi?
It's fucking Cedric Doumbé in France. But I mean, I'm after seeing that.
Was it with the which one was it?
Baki!
Okay, that
Very
one.
much.
Yeah.
No, because there was the one afterwards where he had like the Swiffer thing,
Yeah, I wasn't there, man. Can't tell you
Okay.
much about that.
Wow. look at
This
that.
one ended in Splinter TKO, correct?
Yeah. So
Yeah, and look, some say maybe the fight ended during this walkout. I'm not allowed to get into that, but
Yeah. Someone brought their
Makes sense.
plank
Wow.
into the arena and Splinter fell on the walkout.
It is unbelievable.
Gotta wear the
you're
shoes
getting
next
dangerous.
time.
Got her did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Gotta wear the shoes next time.
Free Marco.
Rick, what about you?
For me, it was Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill, combination of the two. It was Alex Pereira's
Wow.
walkout, but it
Oh,
was
that's a good one.
Alex. Obviously, Alex's walkouts could be in here any year, right? Like we could talk about the intensity and the seriousness and the vibe of Alex Pereira's walkouts in general. But in this particular situation, it was the collaboration between Alex and Jamal. When Alex gets the bow and arrow ready and fires that arrow, and then Jamal Hill actually catches it and then snaps it over his leg.
Oh God.
To me, this is the moment. This is the moment in a walkout that got me excited, got me amped in a way that none of the others did.
You're 100% right. That's a great job. Honestly, all three of you, amazing shots. I love this category because it invokes what makes it all so special, right? The emotion, like you get. There's nothing like before a big fight, or let's say a lesser known fight, but you're like, holy shit! Look at the time and effort that went into this. It only makes you more excited. It only makes you more invested. It only makes you more into it. So I love a good walkout. I'm a sucker for. I love this particular section of the award show, the walkout and the promo and the posters, because this is what makes the fight game so fun. This is why you remember the legendary fights and why I love these posters and whatnot. So in the end, love them all. I didn't go in the same direction as all of you. I love the emotion. I love the theater, and while my particular winner wasn't necessarily one that had a lot of glitz and glamour, again, I go back to how I felt in the moment. And when Dustin Poirier came out to shine bright like a diamond, shine bright, I just remember that day. I get goosebumps just thinking about it and just how he looked and that walk out there and how they shot it. And he came out to that song at the beginning, and then it transitioned to his regular walkout. It was big. It felt, look at that. That shot right there, love that. It was special stuff. We can't play the music here because we don't want to get demonetized. But you all remember it, right? There was that young man at the beginning, and everyone was like, "Are you going to play it? Are you going to play it?" And it was all dark, and they played it. It was great.
He comboed it.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan does the Q James Brown.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He said that. I went back and relived it. So great shout there from all of us. Really, let's give us all a great pat on the back. By the way, the people agreed with me. Man,
I think that's just because they don't know the game well enough.
Yeah, they don't know ball.
Arthur Spilska, I mean, is the one.
They're not gonna know shit about that.
Some others.
I was in the trenches for that one.
They don't.
That was amazing, GC. That is
Prelim to post-lim, KSW 94. I was locked in.
Again, this is one where you have to lean on someone like GC or Kaposa. Yaman at Super Ryzen 3, Moeen Ahmadi at the he had a great one at FCR 21, the Trump assassination attempt / many men combo. Do you guys remember that? Anyway, Alex Shlemenko in the DeLorean at RCC 19, Max Holzer with the Buzz Lightyear You Got a Friend in Me vibe at Octagon 52. Of course, who could forget Max Holzler with the Batman look? Moeen Ahmadi with the dictator look at FCR 19. And can I be honest with you guys? I actually really did consider Esteban Ribovitz for the Roy Jones Jr. walkout. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
When he walks out because of the scene, and then Roy is sitting in the front row, rapping to it.
To his own song.
I still don't know if that was just by chance. Because remember, the night before, at our live show, Roy told us that he was going there as opposed to the Canelo fight. And we're like, wow, Roy Jones is going to the UFC event as opposed to the big boxing card. And then there he is. Like, was that all coordinated? We'll never know.
I don't know. I don't know if Esteban Ribovic's got the pull to coordinate all of that.
Or did someone tell? I don't know.
Or did they know that they eventually Roy Jones Jr. was going to have his own song played as a walkout? And they were like, maybe you should just sit right here.
Yes.
Yeah, that could have been it.
Yeah.
We don't want to know how the sausage is made, Ariel. We don't want to know.
We don't want to.
This is our. Let us dream.
You're 100% right.
Olajuwon Dream points out it could have been Mike Tyson's ass, which, if you think about it, like it wasn't the official walkout, but it became the talk of like this fight's about to happen.
That could have been feel good moment of the year. That one was God. That was so good.
That was like the only part of the stream that worked for me. I'm not messing. It just came on.
You got the buffer right as it showed Mike Tyson's ass. It just didn't go move.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Some people said he tripped on his way down. By the way, speaking of our good friend Kaposa, he did weigh in on social media about the Dogfight Wild Tournament. He writes, Dogfight Wild Tournament's second impact did more for MMA in Spain than Topuria winning the title. They built an actual blood sport platform, and the 3-versus-1 main event was a historic feat of the human spirit. So,
no, I actually think I do remember Dogfight. I'm not actually joking. It was on YouTube.
No, it's just,
and it was like very well produced. It was and it had like a very small area that they fought, and there was like people, like a big table watching over it. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm not kidding.
All right, let's go to promo of the year. One of my favorites, promo of the year. Rick, why don't you go first?
Easy one for me, man. You know what? I felt like I had like real good like vision on a lot of these. For me, it took some uncovering, it took some digging. But it had to be this. I felt very good about it. It's the whole Old Man Volk thing. It's the whole Old Man Volk.
Wow.
Go back to the promos from February, I want to say. I think it was February. When I want to get the outlet correct. And I think we have the video of it. Actually, why don't we just play the video and then I'll talk on the back end.
Volkanovski too old. Don't make a headline out of anything these days, huh? It's ridiculous. All this talk about the over 35 curse, it's nonsense. So I've let the Sportsbet crew in. Shoes off. To prove I'm just as youthful as these whippersnappers. Like licorice?
Nah, I'm good.
Usually a hit. Yeah, every time I think of hanging up the gloves, this damn phone rings. It's always Dana. We want you to headline this next main card. This will be him now. Great. Watch. Dana. Who? Taxation office. My credit card details are 9036.
It's a scam. Hang up.
What, that's the thing?
This fight coming up sounds like your toughest.
Yeah, this one's going to be huge. I really don't like them. So we've already got a date set for next week at the council court. Here, let me show you something. My neighbour's fence, at least 10 mil in my yard. It's ridiculous.
What?
What'd you say, little fighter boy?
Nothing, Beverly.
Yeah, I'll see you in court.
I'm talking about my
mate.
veggie garden.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
man.
let me ride.
Trust me,
Run
it's
back
crazy.
to your
It's crazy.
silly little hexagon.
So good.
Shout out to sportsbet.com.au who came up with this this promo series, and then Volkanovski for carrying it through to the press conferences with Ilya, showing up in the gear, doing the sleeping in the backstage. Like it was A++ for me. From Volk and from sportsbet.com.au.
The acting from Volk too is
Just next
unbelievable.
level.
Every one of these that he does, like they did the one in where it was in Abu Dhabi, and like he was acting like he was like, yeah, this is my first time here, guys. Like, didn't you fight here? He's like, first time here. His acting is always just on point.
So good.
The production, the script, the acting, phenomenal. And I kind of failed to mention this when I set it up. What's fun about Promo of the Year is you can go in a million different directions here. You can go with something like that. You can go with like a fight promo, you know, one of the greatest of all time as far as I'm concerned. DC Jones 2, UFC 217, I think it was, or was it 214? In any event, that was amazing with the 3.5 or so minute promo that they aired for that. You could go with a promo on the mic. You could go with an interview. It's up to you. You can slice this pie in 1,000 different ways. And so you go with an ad like that. You want to call it an ad? I think it's an ad, right? Traditionally, that's a sort of campaign leading up to a big fight. Phenomenal. And then really what tops it off is, to your point, him showing up in the gear at the presser. The fight didn't turn out the way he wanted it to, but he really owned it, as they say in the business. So that's an amazing pick. What about you, GC?
Yeah, I actually went with the cutting of the promo in a post-fight interview, and for me, it was a no-brainer. It was Brian Battle at UFC Paris. The way that the crowd reacts to it, the quotability of it, I know you didn't think the Butcher was gonna lose to a French dude in a fist fight. I've watched it probably 10,000 times. It puts me on a high when I watch it. It truly is incredible, and I think we actually have it to run, so I can just watch it one more time.
Let's go.
Mike, I gotta say something right quick. Yeah, keep booing me, baby. Keep booing me. I love it. I love it. Listen. People been booing me and doubting me since I started training. I love it. The more you boo me, the stronger I get, baby. I'm used to this. Y'all can't stop me. Keep it up, baby. Keep it up. Y'all can't stop me.
Continuez de me huer parce que depuis le début de ma carrière, les gens
They
ils me huent
translate
et ça fait
everything
que
to
me
the French
renforcer, ça
people
me donne
on him
de la
talking
force,
shit to him.
ça me pousse encore à me retrancher et de faire de mieux en mieux. Donc continuez, j'adore ça. Je kiffe.
It's amazing.
Let's talk about Battle nodding as if he knows what he's saying there. I love it.
Egging him on after knocking out their own countrymen.
Trying to take him down in the first round. He's an expert at judo. And then in round 2, you go to the hands and then you get the stoppage. Listen, that was incredible work.
On va parler du combat maintenant, Brian. Dans le premier round, on a vu que tu as essayé de trouver la soumission, le takedown. Et après, dans le deuxième round, tu as essayé vraiment plus dans ton striking contre un adversaire très très fort, un adversaire de taille. Donc
This
parle-nous
is
un
when
petit
they
peu
show
de
the
ce qui s'est
B-roll
passé
and
dans
they
le
cover it
combat.
up with this insider.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Hey, you ain't saying this, baby. Yeah, let me hear it. Hey, I know y'all didn't think the Butcher was gonna lose in a fist fight to a French dude. I know y'all did not think
Gotta repeat it again.
was gonna lose in a fist fight to a French dude. That ain't never gonna happen, baby.
Fucking phenomenal. I'll just
so
piggyback and say that's my pick as well.
It's so good.
Fucking phenomenal.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. I love it. It's so great.
amazing.
And again, this is why you need a crowd, because you don't get that moment if it's in an Apex or if it's in a shitty crowd. Like he's reacting to the crowd. They're reacting to him. He's playing to the crowd. I said it in the moment when I was watching it. It felt like 1984 Madison Square Garden, Nikolai Volkov, saying like, Russia #1. And then the Iron Sheik saying, USA and spitting on the ground. That's what it was. It was old school pro wrestling. And then we find out later, as he joined us on the program, a couple of months later, that he's an old school pro wrestling fan. You can't not be a pro wrestling fan and deliver something like that. You have to have that in your back pocket, and he fucking nailed it. That was beautiful. It was incredible. So shout out to Brian Battle. By the way, to me, it actually came down to Brian Battle or Renato Moicano on that same card where he went off on the French government and whatnot. But I love it, and I know that the French dude's not going to be like all that
Yo
stuff
didn't
was
think
just
the Butcher was going to lose in a fist fight to a French dude. And then just reiterates it.
Yes, just perfect.
That ain't never going to happen.
I actually thought originally like they should have let him walk off after the initial answer, but then we would have never gotten the, I know you didn't think the Butcher was going to lose to a French dude in a fist fight. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, he didn't end the year on the best note with missing the weight and the somewhat controversial win, but certainly a great character that emerged, you can say, in 2024. What about you, Pete?
Mine is very different to all of your guys' pick, and all of your guys' picks are great. But mine was Francis Ngannou's dedicating his win to his late son Kobe after his PFL return. Very different mood, I will admit, to what we've seen here, but incredibly emotional. And like this guy, if you were casting a movie for the baddest man on the planet, it would be Francis Ngannou every day of the week, and him kind of bearing his soul to the watching world in this moment that was so important to him. Like, Rick talked about it earlier in terms of him and being the comeback fighter of the year. So much expectation on his shoulders with PFL, coming off that Joshua loss. Obviously the loss of his son as well, which we can only imagine the pain and suffering that his family went through during that period. I just found it to be incredibly emotional for everyone watching at home, and it really, really sealed the deal in terms of explaining to the watching world how much this meant to him and how difficult the process it was.
Did you want to? Are we playing it or no? I thought you were teeing up for it. No, we're not playing it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't just think about anything than my son Kobe. I only take this fight because of him. I wanted to fight for him, but and I'm done. So I don't know. I hope they can remember his name, because without Kobe, we wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't have fight.
Shout out to Francis. Yeah, you're 100% right. Again, you can skin the cat in many different ways when it comes to promo, and I appreciate your interpretation of it as well. Very different, obviously, than me, GC, and Rick's. We went for the more comedic route, but an incredible moment. One of the moments of the year, really, and especially when you consider that he was also coming off of the first knockout of his career, which pales in comparison to the pain that he was dealing with in that moment. I'll never forget, he wins the fight and then immediately breaks down in tears. Like he was holding it all in. He wins the fight and it just comes all rushing out. So much love to Francis, and hopefully we see him back in there in 2025. The people, by the way, went with Brian Battle's promo after his win over Kevin Jousset at UFC Paris. Lots to choose from. We move along now to another one where I'll say was my top 5 toughest to pick from. I really had a hard time with this one, and it's poster of the year, a category that is near and dear to my heart because I feel very strongly about the poster, and I get very upset when promotions just sort of wing it, when they don't put enough TLC into the poster. The poster is very important. It's how you remember the event. And I don't love this era that we're in where it's just like rinse repeat. Oh, let's just take this, and this is this is a nice little photo shoot that we did here. We'll Photoshop this and we'll put the same logo there, and it's the exact same every time, and it says nothing about the place that they're in or the venue that they're in or anything about the history between the two fighters or the rivalry, nothing. It's just rinse and repeat, cookie cutter crap, and it drives me nuts. And so that's why, and I'll go first here, that's why historically I have always gone to the international promotions, usually to the Risings of the world, usually to the Japanese promotions, because they do it right. And I'll be honest, sometimes it's events that I didn't even really watch. There's like a Deep Jewels here or a random promotion there or a Rising or a KSW because they put some thought, they put some panache, they put some stuff into it. In fact, I do want to go through some off-the-grid ones that I particularly like that I feel like there's a chance the boys didn't go with. Can I show some here? Let's go through some of them before I give you my pick, because there was just so many to choose from. And again, I want to give a big shout out to our good friend Kaposa for helping me with this one, because I always seem to forget. And he's, again, an incredible mind when it comes to this stuff. Do we have? Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Ryzen 46. I mean, look at this. Look how beautiful this is. April 29th. Look at that. You got the butterfly and it's dripping. Is that like paint? What is that? What do you think that is, Frank? Is that paint? What is that?
Paint.
Yeah, it's freaking paint. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at the creativity. Look at the thought. It's just unique. It's different. Again, to me, the test is, will you put it on your wall? Would you want to frame that, put it on your wall? What about this? Ryzen 47. Look at that. It's cool. It jumps at you. It's different. It's unique. It's creative. It's dramatic. Ryzen 48. Look at that. There's a storm brewing. Oh, look at all the face. Look at the colors. And yes, a lot of this is Photoshop, but you got a little bit of the Coliseum stuff at the bottom. The pillars. Beautiful. What about Super Ryzen 3? Yeah, look at the color. You're telling me you don't want that on your wall? You're not framing that? What about Ryzen 49? Look at that. I mean, that is something. Decade. All the great moments over the past 10 years for Ryzen. Again, these are just photos, but it's the way you present it. It's different. It's fun. It's memorable. There was a secondary Ryzen one. Excuse me, I'm getting emotional here. I mean, look at that one. Look at that. Saitama Super Arena. And then look at that. You see what that is? That's the Coliseum there. You see that? Look at the symmetry. Look at the imagery. Look at the symbolism.
Such a great composition.
Ah, it's beautiful. Look at the colors, right? Ah, it's a new day. They're rising. They're like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. What about Deep Jewels 44? I mean, look at that.
Nice.
That's a nice one. Thank you, PT. Appreciate it. What about Deep Jewels 47? Oh, look at this.
All right, that one's pretty sick.
Yeah, the comic strip.
Yeah,
Deep loves the
pretty
comic
sick.
strip. Love that. Ah, beautiful. What about KSW 100? Historic.
Shout out KSW.
I mean, look at these faces.
Yeah, that's what I like about this one is like
Shout out Big
not
Phil.
the traditional fighter faces. They're doing something different.
Yeah, look at Big Phil to freeze, man.
The Freeze, Khalidov.
Look
love
at
it.
Mahmed. Look
Yeah.
at Mahmed, legend. Yeah.
And okay, this is fun. This is one of my favorites of the year and one of my favorite promotions. What about Black Combat 12?
Black Combat knows what they're doing, man.
Oh my God, Black Combat is I mean, this should be the Black Combat award. Look at this. The Bosses of Belgrade.
This is actually FNC 17.
Yeah, that too.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, no, that.
I got a
Those
Black
boys looks
Combat
like they
one that
can
I
rip
like
some
that we can
cigs
actually
right
shout
there.
out.
I'll get to it. Yeah, I screwed up because I didn't put a space. No, there's more. Look at yeah, there we go. What about that one? Black
This is
Combat
Black
12, The
Combat.
Return of the Kings.
Shout out. Absolute legendary one. This was my number 2.
Class.
I mean, this is beautiful. What about Black Combat 13?
There.
Yo,
Nice and simple.
nice, simple.
You know what that says?
Yes.
Yeah, I could have done some more research on this.
Yeah. What about Black Combat 13 alternate?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's give that one a go.
What
Let's
about
give that
Black
one.
Combat 10? Oh, look at that.
Ah, that's a good one.
Look at that.
See,
like
what's
that
yours going to
one.
be? UFC Apex 68?
How did you guess?
Rosenstrike Gadziev?
How
Face,
did you get
face,
it?
blue
No, I didn't know we
filter.
could just text Kaposa and get him to do all of our work.
No, I asked him if I was on par. And I say
Every
all
word,
of this.
every word. And thank you again to
And-
Kaposa.
and I- by the way,
who I
I-
tell-
This show is a love letter to Kaposa.
And by the way, I say all of this
extra
to
set of
reveal-
DMs next December, baby.
I say all of this to reveal this. For perhaps the first time ever, I went with a UFC poster.
Wow.
No
and,
way.
And I'm just as shocked as all of you.
way.
For the first time ever.
We just did all that, and
yes,
the UFC.
I
poster.
say all this
You think
to
you know
reveal as you're slagging me off with a UFC poster because I thought what they did for Noche UFC was fantastic. And again, just like the coaches, there has to be 2 winners here. And I feel very strongly about the artist series not being a part of it. But the combo of the regular poster, let's see it right here, the regular poster and the artist series together is nothing short. Like the regular one is a contender in its own right. I mean, look at that. It's playing up to the Sphere. It's playing up to the Noche. I love the way the big faces of Sean and Marab loom large, and then it's Valentina and Alexa. And then you couple it with this classic, artist series poster, which shout out to Yahoo Sports president Ryan Spoon. He bought it at the event, came here, asked me for whatever reason to sign it. And that was the first time I actually saw it. I mean, look at that. They played this up perfectly. And again, you might be saying to yourself, like, golly, like, why did they do a love letter to Mexico at the Sphere sponsored by Riyadh Season? Unimportant details. The point is, that combination right there was peak. And I would love to see, they love to do this thing where it's the little box and it says right there, it says like UFC 303 and it's the same thing. Even for the official one, they didn't do it. They put the box with the date. They put that. They didn't even put they put that on top. There actually isn't even a mention of 306. You see it? There's no mention. It's just Noche UFC. And then you couple it with that. I was really impressed. And so for the first time ever, I do believe, I have to go back into the archives. I think this is the first time I ever give it to the UFC. So what do you have to say for yourself now, PT? What do you have to say?
I have to say it's a great choice. If it was up to me, it would be UFC every year. I love you, Dana. But what we're going to go with this time is the PFL Seize the Throne poster, which I thought was fabulous. If we can have a look at that there. Look at this thing. I mean, my God, where are they? In the bells of hell? Maybe. Here they are pointing at a very sought-after throne, it would seem. And both of them, as you can see, and as the picture depicts, want to seize that throne. So that, for me, was both beautiful and poignant. So that's why I went with
in your
that.
headcanon, they were fighting for the throne of hell?
When they didn't have the throne in the cage,
okay.
I was pretty pissed off, I got all hyped up on the poster, and I was like, "Oh, wait a lane! They're about to bring the throne out," and then they just had a fight, which I thought was disappointing. But purely on a poster, it's a winner for me.
Got you.
Nice one. That's Clay Collard and AJ McKee in there, right?
Big fight.
Yeah, that was them.
That was big.
Attempting to seize the throne.
Was that an official poster, or was that like an?
I mean, did you
one?
not just have like, here's the collector's item?
No. But I've always said artist, but I said the two. Like I would have gone. You know what's also weird about that one?
Funny, it's my pick though. Do you know what I mean? Like it's funny that you would have gone for something.
No, what's weird about it also is that like,
what did you pick?
Was that the champion versus champion one? But actually, one of the few fights on the main card that didn't involve champion versus champion.
That's why I liked it.
Say what throne are they?
Yeah,
what
throne?
Seize?
It's as you can see, it's a very decorative one, and I'd say it costs a few quid.
To sit on, to be honest.
Well, heavy lies the crown.
It looks like once you get there, too, there's not much to do other than
I love how PT is now defending the artistic choices of this poster as if he
the nuances
created
would be lost.
himself.
PT, you are right that it's your pick, but it represents all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The nuances would be
point.
lost on a lot of you. I'm a very creative and artistic person. So I understand your Noche UFC one there, Ariel. And look, it's great. But for me, just isn't as profound as the Seize the Throne poster, which is hanging up on my wall. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, you want to show us?
And in the Louvre.
This sort of feels like, like when you're a teacher, I've never been a teacher, and someone hands in their essay, and they just spent like 5 minutes and went to AI to get the answer, ChatGPT or whatever.
Could I have went to AI? Because I would have done that if I could for this particular.
PT, that was a good chance. You could have slid in with like Kaposa did your homework.
No,
but
what are you giving him? Ammunition here?
I
picked a UFC one. Trust me, mate.
DM Kaposa is like, show me the best poster.
Yeah, and I went with a UFC one. So what do you have to say for yourself?
It was
GC, go ahead.
I actually agreed with you, though I feel like I break the... No, sorry, not you, PT. The AI PFL one did not make my short list. I feel like I go against you every single year. You're like, no artist series, and I just continue to go artist series, and I went with the Noche UFC artist series by one Jorge R. Gutierrez. You can follow him on Instagram at Mexopolis. Unbelievable stuff. It's so unique. It's so well done. It's got the fighters on it. It's got all these beautiful colors. It shows homage to the theme of the evening. And like you said, this is one that if you're at that event, you purchase this, you frame it, and it's a great keepsake. All-time stuff here from Jorge Gutierrez.
Of all the artist series ones, which sometimes you guys see them, and I'm like, this isn't even that good.
They're just always better than the UFC.
That's the thing. They're just always better than the UFC. This one is just great on its own.
It's so good, man.
Loved it.
It's so good.
Absolutely loved it. Great shot there. What about you, Rick?
I always go Artist Series every year.
For fuck's
Lately, these days, UFC 300. Shout out to the homie, friend of the show, Jian Galang.
Absolute homie.
Just look at this thing. I mean,
So good.
It hits everything.
How they use the real UFC 300 poster over
How
this
did
makes
they use
me
that over
sick.
this? That's the other part. The gap between what dog shit they actually used and this is like a chasm that you can't even fathom. This is absolute beauty. And they've got the UFC 300 logo font. It's just baffling.
Really shout out to Jian Galang. I always had this hanging. This is like that poster, but it's in like a different format. It's shiny. I mean, look at
Do you think it's like a payment thing? Like
Yes,
if they
I
just
do.
use it, like they have.
I do. I think if
so
they
pay
used
them. You guys make so much money. Just
Or is it
pay
like a
them. It's
licensing
so much
thing?
fun.
Like, I wonder
that.
what
If-
the reason is.
If they mass marketed it and made it the official poster, I imagine that there's different tiering of how they would have to do that, because those posters are now going to appear on websites. Those posters are now going to appear in bars. They've had all that marketing that they have to do for it. I imagine the compensation package is different. But man, you got to figure it out. These posters are just so much better.
So much better.
Yeah, I had that one second. Yeah, after Seize the Throne.
Yeah.
Sure you did.
Just couldn't
The Seize the
overtake.
Throne
Couldn't,
really
couldn't
hit-
take the throne from the
How did you
throne.
even? I actually have never seen the Seize the Throne one. I've
Well,
li-
now you
why
see, I
was
haven't
it
got
clay
to drink
colored
in.
AJ
Come back to
McGee?
me in a week. Come back to me in a week. The subtleties there. I mean, it's layered.
this is
so
one
every
that
time
really-
you look at it, you're like,
It
oh
has
my
to-
God,
it has
there's
to
another
mature on our
secret.
palate.
like, what did you type in? MMA posters, and that came
went-
up.
PT literally
MMA
broke
poster equivalent of Sistine Chapel, and that's what they brought me to.
Oh, it looks like they made like a.
look at it again. Did you see that? I didn't even see that before.
PT is
Oh
going
my
to get
God,
an
have you
email
seen this?
from PFL's creative that actually did come up with this concept, just thanking him profusely for.
Oh, I
his-
thought you were
I
going to
see you, brother. Or
They would
sister.
say,
I
to
see
be
you.
honest, it was shit.
Oh, so this is definitely the PFL artist series.
Is it a PFL artist series?
It's got to be.
But you know-
I don't think
you know
this is what the
me,
official poster was. Why would they have not had any of the championship fights on it?
It's too risky. It's too risky to
this is the
put out.
artist series.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's too risky. It's like the Playboy.
We're
of
going to
MMA
find out
posters.
that PT has been moonlighting as a designer, and he actually did make this poster.
1,000%.
That's what we're about to find
That
out.
could be the only answer for this.
What's amazing about it
it's a
is
beautiful piece of work.
my favorite part about this particular pick is that it was one of the
It's
few
stunning.
fights that wasn't for any type of title.
Well, that's what it's a message inside the picture. Why do we always focus on these big fights?
right.
Who's on your one? Sean O'Malley, Merab Devilashvili. Oh, well done. Who's on my one? You're gonna have to look again because I'm not sure myself.
Clay colored AJ McGee. The worst
that's
part is
right.
that the actual designer is probably watching this and like, oh fuck these guys.
Little did they know that
I mean,
Paul Hughes
Petey's
is actually hiding
Is
behind
it even them?
the throne.
Is it really even them? By
PT's
the-
putting this over in a way that it never would have been. So it's actually
Also, it
the
might
best
be the
endorsement.
first time that you see the fighters'
Boy.
backs and not their faces, right?
Again, it's a
just like-
different approach, and I think
It's
we
very
all
avant-garde.
need to commend. Yeah, exactly. You know, go outside the box. You don't have to live in the box like these guys. Outside of it, that's where I
agree.
live.
I agree. I agree.
They just
Colin.
signed PT to a PFL poster design contract for the future.
By the way, the people disagreed with all of us and went with UFC 300, but not Artist Series, just the actual one.
Trolling.
Yeah.
Gotta
No,
be
that's a
trolling.
joke. That's a joke. They probably Googled UFC 300 poster, found that one, and then
Do you guys remember what
was an
that was?
it was just the
course I
logo,
remember what it
the clip
was.
art
The logo,
crap.
yeah.
It was.
And they
just,
obviously hadn't seen Seize the Throne till I brought it to their
the
attention,
waving
so
flag.
We know what they're voting for now, Helwani. I'll tell you that much.
Let's go with the photo of the year, and this is one that we introduced a few years back because I feel like we use these photos all the time, and we don't give credit to the photographers who take them. And a big part of the fight game are these indelible images that we go back to, and there's been some incredible ones over the years. Always a tough one because there's just so many to choose from, and I had a hard time with this one as well. Rick, why don't you go first?
For me, it was the combination of the moment itself, in addition to the photo. It was very tough for me. I'm not going to reveal what my second place one was because I imagine that somebody else might take it or it might be an honorable mention. But for me, it was Alex Pereira's KO over Jamal Hill and the pose and the Khabib lame pose where he knocked Jamal Hill out in one of the most impressive ways you possibly can with the whole Herb Dean thing, shooing him out of the way, knocking him out, brutal knockout, and then has the wherewithal to pose. almost seemingly looking directly at the camera as if this was it reminds me, it conjures visions of the way Israel Adesanya posed over him when he knocked him out, and it was just this picture perfect moment. To me, this was picture perfect. The knockout itself plus the actual picture was perfect, and the pose and the memeing and everything. It narrowly edged my next one, but this was the one for me.
I'll piggyback. That was my pick as well, because I feel like we've gone back to it. We used the GIF. It's shot perfectly. It sums up the whole thing. I didn't even know about the, what did you say, Kabi?
Yeah, he's wait.
Kabi
Do you
Lame.
still not know?
No. At the time,
Okay,
I
now
just
you
thought he
see-
was just
yeah,
like,
okay,
here it
got
is. Here's my masterpiece. And then you go back and you learn that he's paying homage to some sort of like internet meme.
Yeah.
And in that moment, you're thinking of that, like you're reacting that way.
Incredible.
Shamba.
Oh my God. So yeah, Jeff Botari, who does incredible work for Getty and Zufa, he took that photo, and he was my pick as well. What about you, GC?
Yeah, I am actually going to go to UFC 302, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier, and Luke Hales captured just one of the best pictures I've ever seen, just full embodiment of the warrior spirit. It's Dustin Poirier with the blood gushing out of his nose. It's just
incredible.
like, it's just such a good shot. You know, legend of the game, true BMF, throwing down with the pound for pound #1, wearing the heart on the sleeve. He's got the blood leaking out of the nose. Like, this is just it right here. This is so good.
So good. So freaking good. Remember that one vividly. What about you, PT?
It's Tom Aspinall, what appears to be a state of arousal, looking at John Jones at UFC 309. He doesn't like this one, but I quite like it because, you know, you can see this being used all year round. He doesn't like the face he's pulling in this one because he looked a bit cooler, I think, in the Pereira one. But I really, really like it. You know, he's left outside of the situation that's occurring in there. It's
great.
My creative mind, you know, I might lose you here, but he's been excluded from the fight that he should be in, and there he is outside the cage, staring at the man that he desires to fight. Fantastic.
No, that was on my short list. There is also another one where he's looking at Pereira.
I know that I
300.
referenced that. You must have been listening to me.
That one is. I love the Jones one, but because the Pereira one is so cool looking,
it's because it's cool looking. It doesn't speak to what is actually happening. You're not understanding the messaging outside of what you're looking at, boys.
I can understand why he
the same as Seize the Throne. Same as Seize the Throne.
I can understand why he likes the way he looks in the Pereira one better than that one. He's kind of like mid. Trust me, as someone who, you know, the boys like to take pictures of me when I'm like, you know, like this and use it as the thumbnail. I get it, Tom.
No. Actually, you posed for pictures like that.
I didn't. Yes,
and then get upset when we use them.
You're gonna use this one right here. That face you just made.
We like taking pictures. What pictures do we ever take?
This is a constant argument. I sat here.
Yeah.
Someone took photos. I didn't tell them to send every single one that they took. They sent all 300 of them, and then you guys picked. There has to be some sort of editing process.
You need to get the Throne guy in to take the pictures, and we won't have this.
What do you want us to do? Change the entire picture?
Just
your
the
face,
black
man.
the whole time.
You made the face.
I'm mid blink.
Yeah, that's a good
as was Tom. As was Tom. The people, by the way, went with Max Holloway's.
That's the one
walk-off.
I didn't mention because I thought somebody else would pick it.
That one is.
I'm actually shocked you didn't pick that one because you had it in back of you for like 2 months.
Yeah, it was my number 2.
Oh,
that Poirier one is just too good.
A little inside baseball, a little story. We had Dustin Poirier on the show on at MMA Fighting on the MMA Hour, and on one of the graphics that we created around that show and that episode, we did a quoto. We utilized some of those pictures, including that one that GC used. Dustin DM'd the account and was like, "Yo, where the hell is this photo? Send this to me." And we sent him the photos to utilize.
Which one? The one with the blood?
Yeah.
Wow.
He wanted that one.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, it's another one that I loved. Taporia after he beat Holloway drinking the tea.
So actually, unless I'm mistaken, there wasn't like a really good photo of that. It was just a screenshot from the broadcast.
Still pretty good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
I never saw like a great photo because I looked that one up. Maybe I just.
And also, was it tea? Was it espresso? Was it like, what was it?
I think it was espresso, yeah. Just a nice.
Or maybe like a nice little like Arabian tea, you know?
I think it was probably espresso or something.
Any other ones?
I was with y'all.
Alex and Max were my two.
My top three were Dustin, Alex, and Max.
Yeah, there was actually on the PFL Bellator Supercard there was a prelim fight that had an amazing photo.
Pizzi nonplussed.
I didn't realize. Sorry, I tuned out about 2 minutes ago. There, sorry.
Thinking
Wait for
about the
next
throne
section.
again, and he's like, "Oh, that throne."
PT, Chris
so many
Wood, by the
layers
way,
to it.
has scored. Does that help your fantasy, or did it have to
It
be
does.
first?
Yes, it fucking does,
Okay,
actually.
2-0.
Yes.
2-0 for Forrest. I mean,
Sean O'Malley with the knee on Cheeto Vera. That's a great one.
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was an incredible one. So yes, a lot to choose from, and quite frankly, there's some that may have slipped our minds. The people, as I said, went with Mark J. Rebilas's photo of Max Holloway, the walk-off after the Justin Gaethje knockout at UFC 300. All right, we're in the final stretch here, my friends. Final stretch, 4 categories left. Story of the year. Tough, right? It's tough. There have been so many stories over the past year.
It's tough.
What do you go with? What do you go with? Was that real or was that a draw?
The world will never know.
The world will never know. What was your story of the year for the year 2000 and 2024? GC, you go first.
All right, so for 2024, I actually had a tough time with this. There wasn't one that just like really stuck out to me. But in the end, I ended up going with, will the biggest star in the sport, one Conor McGregor, ever enter the octagon again? Obviously, start the year, him and Chandler. You know, is it going to happen? Will they? Won't they? Then we get the fight announcement, and it's going to happen at UFC 303, and we have this. We have a presser scheduled in Dublin, and then doesn't show up to the presser. What's going on? Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Ends up falling out. Isn't going to fight. Then we hear all these rumors of, well, it's going to be later this year. Now it might not be Chandler, and you know, he's still going to get into the octagon before 2024 is out. And I actually firmly believed it. And then it ends up not happening, and then we have the civil trial and everything like that, and now. Going into 2025, I feel like it's more up in the air than it's ever been in his entire career, whether or not he's going to enter the octagon again. So for 2024, my story of the year was, will we ever see the sport's biggest star ever fight again?
Yeah. That's kind of, you know, what I was thinking with Rivalry of the year, right? The ups, the downs. It just like, you have to try to find something that's a constant thread from January all the way until December.
Sure.
And that is a great pick. What about you, PT?
Yeah, it's a civil trial. Very different here than it was over there, but this whole country was talking about this trial every day of it. Dissected on the news every single day. The reputation of McGregor completely tarnished, it seems, in the aftermath of it. So it might be a geographically biased pick in some ways, as I've talked to on this show before. Like the reaction in the United States is very different to the reaction in the UK and Ireland, lesser so in the UK, but just a massive, massive story over here. It was actually voted the biggest news story of the year in Ireland in December. So yeah,
wow.
I couldn't look past that. Yeah, the civil case, him losing the civil case in the key to hand.
Rick?
Yeah, I had something tangentially related to that, but basically mine was summarized as the UFC's like unstoppable business. Like, if you think about the year for the UFC without Conor McGregor, right? We would have expected them to have a Conor McGregor fight, but they did not get a Conor McGregor fight. The UFC had one of its best years ever. It's setting up for a massive television deal next year. UFC 300, domestic gate records every single time they host an event, settling the antitrust lawsuit, Dana White's influence and proximity to power, like involved in Donald Trump's election. Their business is bulletproof right now, and if ever there was a time that the UFC could have been down, it would have been, John Jones is just coming back, and we don't know what his future looks like. Conor McGregor's future is uncertain. The UFC is seemingly stronger business-wise than ever, and that was the story of the year for me. Like, the UFC cannot miss at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they are on fire at the gates, all that stuff, 100%, and primed for a massive year. We talked about this on the preview show with the rights coming up here in America, with the ESPN deal coming up. You see WWE, their TKO cousin, debuting on Netflix today, and Netflix is, and I should have mentioned this on the preview show. Netflix is about to get into sports in a very big way. They've already dipped their toe here with the Jake Paul fight, and then the NFL games, and now Raw. It's a total game changer if they're involved. So couldn't agree more with you. The people, by the way, agreed with Petesy. They went with the Conor McGregor saga. A little Petesy, a little GC as well. I went with Alex Pereira saving the UFC 3 times. He saved them at UFC 300. He saved them at 303. He saved them the Salt Lake City card, UFC 307. 300, they were searching for a main event. Remember, it was right after 299 that Dana White made the announcement that it's going to be Jamal Hill versus, like, we were essentially like a month away at that point, or a little bit more. And he announces, oh, it's going to be Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira, and people are like, oh shit, wow, okay. And he saves their ass with an incredible fight, with an incredible win, with an incredible knockout. Then the Conor McGregor card falls through 303. Remember that saga? He's in Australia. He's on a PR tour. He's got broken toes, saves them, wins the fight. Great finish. He's the man. And then because of Islam getting hurt, and Islam was supposed to be in Abu Dhabi, and Topuria Holloway was supposed to be in Salt Lake City, and Salt Lake City is paying the UFC a lot of money these days in site fees to hold the events there. And then they moved Topuria Holloway to Abu Dhabi, and now they need a main event because they weren't going to do Pena versus Pennington as the main event for Salt Lake City with this this arena paying so much money to have a UFC event there. They call upon Old Faithful Alex Pereira to fight the relatively unheralded Khalil Roundtree, which turned out to be an incredible fight, ultimately won by Alex Pereira. That's why I called him the MVP of the UFC. He kept stepping up for the UFC and saving them, and not just saving them because he showed up to fight. He delivered every time as well. They were incredible fights, and you always feel like you're getting your money's worth when the guy is involved. It's just an amazing story, and yeah, I felt like him doing that 3 times. And by the way, the span of 6 months, right? He did that in April with 300, June 303, and then October 307. Remarkable. What a year. Like I said, the people went with Conor McGregor's saga of a year. Let us move along now to feel good. You could go feel good story. You could go feel good moment. Kind of one and the same. And you know what? I'll go first on this one. My feel good story of the year is a story that stretches from February all the way until November. And I remember a lot of people telling me about the Welsh gangster Oban Elliott and telling me about his love of Chael Sonnen and what a great character he was. And he finally gets into the UFC. And I wanted to have him on before his debut in February in Anaheim. And I remember having him on, and I remember him making me cry. And I remember just kind of like falling in love with the guy because he is just so passionate. He speaks from the heart. He wears his emotion on his sleeve, and he has an incredible story. And I use the word incredible not to say that it's a great story in that it's all great things. No, he's had to overcome unimaginable, unspeakable tragedy, his father's passing, and he's defied all the odds and has been able to overcome that and make it all the way into the UFC. And so him doing that and showing up after, the appearance on Contender Series, and then his interview on the show, and then just our subsequent interviews leading up to his fight here in New York just kind of stole my heart. And to me, every time I'm around the guy, and I love his history and his love of history, of UFC history and MMA history. Like, you could tell this is a person who was really watching 10, 15 years ago, and you could see how much him being in the UFC, how much it means to him. You can't help but feel happy for the guy. And so a quick reminder, back in February, this is what he said to us right before his UFC debut.
Notice on your arm you have the tattoo 2005. What does that that signify?
From a young age, and here I am.
Wonderful stuff, and thank you to Spencer on our team for putting together that video back in February. He ended up winning his UFC debut at the Pond. Got to meet CM Punk, who he's now become BFF with. He went to Raw on that Monday afterwards. Remember, Michael Chandler is cutting a promo on Conor McGregor, and he's in the background having the time of his life, and it's so infectious. You see him at that Berlin card. He's out there like hitting rock bottoms and RKO's on people. He wins in Manchester, and then of course he gets the big opportunity to fight in New York. And I said this to the crew at our Christmas dinner, our holiday dinner, which I think Frank was gone. I think he was already in bed by the time I said this. Yeah, I said my one of my favorite underrated moments of the year, and I actually said this to Oban as well. I sent him a voice note. Was when he came, he came on the show twice that week, once before the fight and the Monday after. And the second time he came on after the win, after the incredible knockout win of Basel Hafez, he comes in wearing the puffy coat, holding, the case of beer. And it reminded me, I've never really experienced something like this. I don't drink much and all that stuff, but it felt like a scene out of the movies where two friends meet up at the pub after a long day, and it's the holiday season, and they've got their big coats on, and they say, we're going to have a nice cold one together. And he came in excited to celebrate, and then I showed up with my own beer as well, and he was so excited by that, and it just felt like, okay, no, you go first. Oh, you go first. And it was just, I don't know if I'm verbalizing it correctly, but it just seemed like a scene out of a movie. Two buds meeting up after a long day's work, toasting one to each other. This is the moment that I'm talking about right here, because there was a look on his face that is something that, I don't know, it just touched me, and it felt like a scene out of a movie. Take a look. You're buzzing. Please have a seat. Have a seat.
Let me rip this.
Okay. Look at you. Yeah. And hey, we're gonna double dip. I told you I was bringing some Canadian beer as well. We're double dipping. We're double.
Right. Well, you have one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get. You did the thing.
We're doing it. Are we doing it here?
Let's do it.
Right, this one first or yours?
I want to go with yours.
All right, Canadian beer. Yeah. Try not to get the thing wet. Cheers. We're sorting it out. It just feels like one of those scenes. Pizza, you know what I'm talking about? Do you get what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's great that you all got to sit down and have a meal and discuss what you're picking these awards without me. That's great.
Also, what's funny about this is Ariel actually said this directly to me while I was sitting next to him.
Listen.
So the fact that you
guys are trying to make a moment about Oban Elliott. You're trying to make a moment.
I didn't know you were turning it into a bit, so...
No, it was great. It's a great moment, and it's a great story Owen's had. Like, as he said, he could have been in a few categories here. I don't know what it is about those guys. They are some of the most infectious people I've ever met.
They're genuine, right?
Just really great people. Like, they'd never turn you, give you a wrong turn. And he's exactly like the lads out at that gym. And we know we loved him. Shaky Shaw, Jack Shaw, who retired this year. Oban's a great continuation of that gym in the UFC, and you feel like you always want them there. So I'm very grateful for him being here. And as you said, an amazing story. The stuff about his dad, so emotional. It's great to have them as a lasting presence in the promotion. I think they will be as well under the guidance of Shaky and Jack.
And I do want to note that according to his Instagram, Oban posting yesterday that it was 20 years ago yesterday, January 5th, 2005, that his father passed away. I'm sure wherever he may be, he is very proud of his son. So that story throughout the year for me was just a feel-good story, and very happy for his success and what he's been able to do over the past year in the UFC. PT, why don't you go next?
I feel good moment of the year for me was it's not as poignant as yours, but it was Rick's already talked about this. Volk at the press conference before Ilia Topuria, because there was so much talk of this is a bad time for Volkanovski to take this fight. Ilia is this surging prospect who, everything he touches is turned to gold. But in that moment, and I know that he lost the fight, but in that moment, it was like he completely rattled Topuria by going the opposite way of what he wanted. If you remember, Topuria is pretty outlandish at that press conference. Like, he's wild. People kind of turned on him. They were kind of saying, oh, this guy's just a fake McGregor, all this kind of stuff. And it was all because Volkanovski went up there and just kind of took the piss out of the seriousness of the situation. Obviously, didn't win the fight. It's a bit like GC's KSW pick earlier, but I felt everyone was united in loving Volk. And you often say, Ariel, it came too late for Volk. He should have been getting the adoration he had, during the run up to the first Islam fight. That should have been there for a lot longer time. I felt in that moment that everybody was singing off the same hymn sheet, and we were all just adoring Volkanovski and how he approached that press conference.
No, great. Yeah, it's great. How about that? Old man Volk. I mean, it didn't end up well for him, but he is a lovable character. Looking forward to his return. Maybe April, maybe May. Let's see. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, for me, I kind of alluded to this earlier. The rivalry between DDP and Israel Adesanya started in a real kind of like nasty place, and it seemed to have it started a bad blood feud that I wasn't at the time like super comfortable with, which then kind of ended as they left the cage. We can see here in the cage Israel holding up DDP's hand, showing respect to him. But it was actually, to me, a moment that came after that was not initially meant for cameras. And that was after the press conference, Israel and DDP had an embrace backstage where there's a jacket that DDP and Israel exchange. And so you see them embracing here, and you see that, they're settling the differences and showing respect. But even more importantly, following this moment, so Israel here, you see raises DDP's hand. But following this moment, you see DDP embracing Israel Adesanya's family. And to me, this, like, when I saw this on social, I was like, oh shit, shout out to Oscar Willis of the Mac Life who captured this. To me, this was like, oh man, like it really touched me. And one of the previous years I used Israel Adesanya and John Jones squashing their beef. That one never really had, I don't think, the tension that this one quite had. And so to me, this is even a level beyond this. I was super happy to see how respectful and how much respect they had for each other. And not only that, but DDP embracing Israel Adesanya's family. To me, this was like a real feel-good moment for me. I was very happy to see the rivalry end in this way, even though this is not the like continued bad blood and they'll never be friends, and it helps propel the MMA storyline in terms of life. This is what it's all about, and it really made me feel good about where we are.
Love that. I actually never saw that second video with the family.
Yeah,
that's
incredible
great stuff. Yeah. That is great stuff. What about you? What about you, GC?
Yeah, this is perfect. You guys have teed me up. A lot of depth, a lot of respect, love between each other. Mine's much more simplistic. I'm actually going to head to Game Bred Bare Knuckle. And after Big Frank Tate got a 60-second knockout of Alex Nicholson, he brings his dog in the cage, and we get this viral moment right here. Look at this dog dapping him up, dapping up Pops after the big win.
Wow.
Look at that damn
that
dog.
That is incredible.
Dap me up, bro.
What the hell?
Shout out.
How did you find this?
Hey, shout out,
I take
man.
back
Listen,
my nomination.
I got to be honest. You talk about all the depth and stuff ours had. Sometimes it's as simple as a dog giving somebody a high five.
Wow.
That one hit me too.
If I had a dog that could dap me up like that, that would be the #1 party trick.
Wow.
I'd be the coolest kid on the block.
What a moment.
Imagine me smoking a cigarette and then I dap my dog up. They'd be like, this is the coolest fucking guy I've ever seen in my life.
What's the dog's name?
I actually didn't get that far.
Oh.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Matilda back in the day with Davey Boy Smith. That is amazing. That is amazing. Wow.
That's a
How
great
about
one.
that?
Real cut. I love that one.
The people, by the way, they went with Mark Coleman being able to attend UFC 300.
Man, that's a great one.
I
all
That's
just
a great
blow it?
one, man. I
just
botched
blow
it.
it?
I forgot about
By the
Mark
way,
Coleman, dude.
I thought you were going to... You had the moment with the
I
BMF
fucked
belt.
up. Yeah, but I really screwed that
Are
one
you
up.
upset?
Wow.
You were feeling great about your
I am.
dog pick
Yep.
like as
Yeah.
of 10 seconds ago. Yeah.
Oh, I actually thought I had the pick of the show so far with that one.
You did
And I
have
just
the pick of
completely
the-
fumbled it.
Seize the
I
throne.
completely fumbled it. Yeah, I botched
Seize the
that
throne,
bad.
obviously.
Shout out to Mark Coleman.
Yeah. A couple other ones, in addition to Coleman's appearance at 300 and the whole story of what happened to him and his
I
family.
can't
with
believe
the
we
house.
all missed that.
Yeah,
one.
it's-
I'm
it's-
still.
No, I had it here. I had it here. But anyway, Merab Dvalishvili's homecoming after winning the belt. Remember that? I
Great
mean,
one.
he's out there on the
Great
freaking, and there's the dude in the horse and buggy.
Horse and buggy.
By the way, Ilya Taporia's moment at the Bernabeu, I thought was pretty
That was
incredible.
great.
Right? I feel like that was pretty incredible. And what about DJ? Just holding in the
emotion.
Oh,
tears.
yeah, the retirement.
The retirement
also
ceremony.
That was also good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good picks there, lads.
There was that time the
Dog,
Bulldog dapped him up on Game Bred Bare Knuckle. There was that moment.
was good. That was good.
Remember the dog? Yeah, the dog.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
of
dog.
course,
Dags?
highest of honorable mentions to one of our own, Juliana Pena, winning the belt after.
Juliana
I mean,
Pena
that
winning
was
the
just
For sure. I thought you were going to have that number one.
No, it was,
Second for me.
I didn't want to make it too obvious. I don't want to be called biased. So there you have it. There you have it. All right, friends. We always leave these two for the very end. We have to do it. It's arguably the two biggest. Is there anything bigger than Fighter of the Year? Male and female Fighter of the Year. Is there anything more prestigious than the 2024 Helwani Nose Male and Female Fighter of the Year? I don't know. You tell me, guys. Anyone? Frank?
No, this
anyone?
is what the discussion's all about. This is the debate. Who's going to win it?
This is big. This is massive. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. I think there will be, my prediction is that I think there will be a consensus. It will be unanimous female, but not male. That's my prediction. And of course, this has been a big debate. I mean, we don't have to beat around the bushes as far as male is concerned. It seems like everyone agrees it was down to two people. It was down to Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira. Female was a little bit tougher, really due to a lack of activity from the UFC champions. If I'm being honest, it usually is a UFC champion thing. Due to the lack of activity, it felt like, okay, this was an opportunity to go off the grid, so to speak. And so I'll start first with female Fighter of the Year. And my pick is Dakota Dacheva. You can make a case for her being a breakout fighter, a most improved fighter. You can make a lot of cases for her, but the year that she had going from the PFL Europe scene, then coming over to the big stage, if you will, running through the tournament and then eventually winning it all when everyone thought, oh, she would get exposed, she'd get fined out, she's not ready, she's just, a striker, she's just a pretty face, whatever they were saying, she annihilated all of that. It was impressive showing after impressive showing, and then topping it off with just completely annihilating Tyler Santos in late November. That's 4 wins in a very short amount of time after an incredible 2023 campaign. Dakota Dacheva, my female Fighter of the Year. Congratulations to her. Petesy?
+1 for Dakota Dacheva. Absolutely brilliant year. I consider her the golden girl of the sport. You have a lofty prediction, of course, that you made for 2025 based on Dakota's success. And look, it's kind of what I spoke to earlier. PFL have a conveyor belt of talent here. You guys cannot see that because they don't have a way to broadcast these PFL Europe fights. But like, Dakota comes from this European setup. Now she's obviously in the global setup. She's top of the world. But you have Lewis McGrillen behind her as well, who I referenced earlier in this fight with Dean Garnett. It's a success story for PFL as well as one for Dakota. And I just don't think you can top that. 4 fights, 4 finishes. She's absolutely spectacular to watch. And I think she has brought some massive brand awareness to the PFL, particularly in Europe and particularly in the UK and Ireland.
Well said. Not much more to add. GC?
Yeah, 3 for 3 so far. Going with Dakota Dacheva as well. 4-0. 4 wins via finish. Wins $1 million check. Becomes a champion and is now the fastest rising woman in the sport. Can't wait to see what she's got for 2025.
By the way, shout out to On Air Jordan. He's done the reveal 3 times now. Always different pictures. Could have reused them. That's
production right there.
That's production.
What
That's why he's the man. That's why he is the man. All right, do we go 4 for 4? Oh, come on. This is some kind of bullshit right here. This is some kind of bullshit right here. What is
I thought about it. I thought about Dakota.
I thought about this too.
She was my number 2, but
if it's Ronda Rousey, we riot.
Well done. Well played. No, it's a serious answer, and I'll be honest. I think it's completely justified. I recognize what Dakota did this year. Incredible accomplishment. Again, this to me comes down to how you kind of think about these awards, and is it the volume or is it the quality? Is it the context and the circumstances surrounding it? To me, the complete package for the year was one Kayla Harrison.
Yeah.
The 2 wins were bigger wins. Let's just, acknowledge that right off bat, right? Like beating Holly Holm and beating Ketlin Vieira is more significant than the wins that Dakota picked up. I put high stock into the Tyler Santos win, but the others I don't. Let's acknowledge. I think we have to acknowledge the level of competition here. To come into the UFC, to have the expectations that were set upon her, to deliver in those moments, to make weight at 135 multiple times, to me, this year belonged to Kayla Harrison. with all due respect to Dakota, who I had number 2, and it was razor close for me, but I gave the slight edge to Kayla Harrison.
She was my number 2 as well. I want to give you shit, but I really can't because it's a classic, like, okay, do the 2 mean more than the 4? And then by the weight cutting thing was gigantic as well. The UFC jitters, she comes in there. You know, she was tested in that second fight in Utah, and then she came back and looked fantastic. So she was my runner-up.
The hand,
yeah, she had surgery. Good call, Frank. And it's interesting. The 2 probably, I mean, like, I didn't see anyone pick someone other than Dakota or Kayla. Both of them not UFC champions, and that's very rare. It's usually a bantamweight champion, a flyweight champion, a strawweight champion in the UFC. That's usually how it's been over the last few years. Obviously, back in the day, there was Strikeforce and all that. So I think that's very interesting as well. Hey, can we give a shout out to Jasmine?
Jazz Divizius.
She had a great year. She had a great year. Obviously, not female fighter of the year levels as well. She's not fighting the higher echelon, but she had a great 2024. Anyone else that you guys wanted to give a shout out to?
I felt like there was a clear separation between these 2 and the rest, right? Dakota and Kayla and the rest. But I did have Natalia Silva had some massive wins. Yeah. Verna Jandiroba had some massive wins, and Jillian Robertson had some massive wins. There was a lot of really, really solid performances. The unfortunate thing is the volume of fights is just not there. Somebody like Dakota outside the UFC actually benefits by being in this tournament. You are going to get those fights guaranteed, whereas in the UFC, the women's fights are just not as frequent. And so it's hard. But Jillian Robertson was able to get 3 wins, undefeated, pretty good year for her.
Jasmine too.
Yeah. So there was some real competition for me in any other year, but to me these 2 were head and shoulders above. Like they separated from the pack.
Zhang Wei Li went 1-0. Valentina Shevchenko went 1-0. Juliana Pena went 1-0. So those are the UFC champions. Chris Cyborg, by the way, went 1-0. So all they had great years, but not as much activity as maybe some of the champions in the past. We hopefully will get Zhang Wei Li back in action in early February in what is one of the best fights of the first quarter of 2025. Zhang Wei Li against Tatiana Suarez. Hopefully we get that one in early February in Australia. By the way, the people, they agreed with you, Rick. Kayla Harrison. How about that?
Wow.
Surprised?
I'm very surprised.
It was, oh, really? I feel like it was a coin flip between those 2.
Yeah, it was a coin flip between those 2. And both. And by the way, shout out to PFL. One's a PFL product, the other one's a current PFL champion. So it's not, I know people love to give them shit, but it's not all bad. And when it comes to women's MMA, they're doing something right, clearly. All right, last one. Is there any type of music? Is there any type of... This is it. We could probably do a 1-hour show on just this. And there was a part of me, actually, that was so looking forward to the discussion. I thought about starting with this one because it's. I keep looking at everyone else's awards, and I see it, and I read it, and it's come down to 2 people, like I said, right? It's come down to Alex Pereira and Ilia Topuria. In case you forgot, Alex Pereira went 3-0. In 2024. And of course, we're talking about male fighter of the year. Went 3-0. He won at UFC 300. He won at UFC 303. He won at UFC 307. And then it's Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria beating arguably the best featherweight champion of all time, Alex Volkanovski, and then beating arguably the best featherweight champion of all time in Max Holloway. There's 3 right now in the best featherweight of all time category. It's Alex Volkanovski, it's Max Holloway, it's Jose Aldo. Not in that order, but you get the point. Someday Ilya is going to be in that mix as well. And so he beat both of them, 2 out of the 3 in 2024 in the span of 8 months and stopped both of them. And oh, by the way, was the first man to stop Max Holloway and did it in emphatic fashion. Incredible year. And so do you value the 2 wins over the legends? Do you value the 3 wins over, maybe lesser competition? One, by the way, is a rematch. The other against a not highly ranked guy, Khalil Roundtree. The other against someone who was out with an Achilles tear for, almost a year. Shorter amount of time, 3 versus 2. It's a fascinating debate. It's a fascinating debate, and I can't wait to see which direction we go in. Should I go first on this one, or should I go last? I'm kind of like internally debating it. I'll go first. Why not?
Go first.
I'll go first on this one. My 2024, thank you for that, Frank. My 2024 Male Fighter of the Year award goes to, and historically, this isn't a very tough one. We've had a couple times, Masvidal, Adesanya year back in the day, but historically it's not very tough. I wanted that to keep going. Was the drop done? Was it just a 10-second drop? And you could replay it. In any event, it was a tough one, man. I was struggling. I was struggling over this one because I don't want to take anything away, and I actually thought of going with a co-winner. I thought about doing, yes, I thought about that, but I felt like it was a cop-out. You can't sit on the fence. I already did it with the poster, and so in the end, I went with Poatan. I had to stick with him because of the fact that he saved the UFC, 3 times in the span of 6 months, the 3 stoppages, the 3 emphatic wins, stepping up 300, stepping up 303, stepping up 306, 307, excuse me. And I don't know what the right answer is. Ultimately, I'm going to hear someone here. I bet they're going to say Topuria, and you make a strong case. But to me, it came down to 3 over 2, short notice, emphatic wins, Alex Pereira, not only the MVP of the UFC, in my opinion, in 2024, but also the 2024 Helwani Nose Male Fighter of the Year. Congratulations, parabéns, Poatan. Rick, you go next.
I'm with you, man. I had Alex Pereira. I just think when you look at the moments that were the biggest of the year, and you look at the biggest events of the year, and you look at when the UFC needed somebody to save their cards, he was the name on everybody's lips. He was the one who stepped up. And in those moments, when the stakes were the highest, when he was the one coming in to save the day, he finished the job every single time and did save the day. It was always a knockout. It was always impressive. He created the biggest moments of the year. To me, it was difficult, but it wasn't like I didn't struggle. I didn't struggle. I thought Ilya had a great year, but I thought Alex had the better year. And that is hard to say when you look at the resume of what Ilya put together. But for me, it was Alex.
GC?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the week of 308, I mean, this has been a topic of discussion since then. And I said if Ilya Topuria knocks out Max Holloway, if he becomes the first one to do that, you're going to have to put him in the conversation with Alex Pereira in a category that felt like it was already written in stone that Alex Pereira was going to be the fighter of the year. And Ilya Topuria did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he went in there and knocked out Max Holloway, the first one to do it, and therefore my male fighter of the year is El Matador, Ilya Topuria, the 2 wins that he put together this year, becoming champion by knocking out Alexander Volkanovski, the first person to ever defeat him at featherweight, and then to go in and take out Max Holloway by knockout. Growing into one of the biggest stars in the sport. I mean, it's one of the greatest 2 wins back-to-back we've ever seen in the sport's history. For that reason, my male fighter of the year, Ilya Topuria.
It's crazy because any other year, if there's no Pereira doing what he did, this is a no-brainer. And any other year, if there's no Topuria doing what he did, like, it's a no-brainer as well.
We're blessed to be in this situation. There is no wrong answer here.
Yeah, tough one. And I feel horrible, honestly, because Topuria deserves all the love in the world. But there's got to be one winner when it comes to Fighter of the Year. And it sounds like 2 of us have gone with Pereira, 1 with Topuria. Petesy, whose side are you on?
To speak to how close these 2 guys were, I've changed my mind. I was saying one thing all year, and I went back and I watched them all just so I get a feel of it. I couldn't go against Ilya Topuria. But that's my fighter of the year. It's Ilya Topuria for all the reasons GC just said, and for the fact that he is opening up a new market. They would not be able to go to Spain without this guy. The relationship between La Liga and the UFC, it makes it just an open goal for them to go there. Where else have we talked about, would we do a stadium here with this guy? Not many places. That is the conversation they're having about Ilya Topuria. Whether they do it or not, I don't think it will happen personally, the Bernabeu. I would love if it would happen. But for me, I think we're about to step in to Spain for the first time with the UFC, and that is going to be so exciting. All of the things I said about France earlier, I think we're knocking on the door of that in Spain, and that's thanks to Ilya Topuria. I understand Pereira. I can understand how much he meant to the promotion this year. He stood up when the great superstar McGregor let them down, essentially. He's been magic all year. He is the face of the promotion as far as I can see it. But Fighter of the Year is about fighting, and to take out two of the greatest 45ers of all time, you become a champion. And again, as I say, have all this ahead of you now, notions of stadiums, etc. That's why I'm going with Topuria, Fighter of the Year 2024.
Wow, how about that? 2 for Pereira, 2 for Topuria. Perhaps we turn to the people to break this tie, and they went with.
Shamba.
Yeah, Alex Pereira. Of course, who could forget that great scene in Newark on May 31st at the NJ Pack? How about that? Remember that when he came up on stage and we did it together? By the way, I do want to let you know that we have never before released those interviews from our live show on May 31st. And starting this Saturday, we'll be releasing them one a week, every interview. Armin Tsarukyan, Alex Pereira, Daniel Cormier, Kayla Harrison, Ally Quinta, Aljamain Sterling, members only, never before seen, other than those 400 or so in attendance. And so if you're a member, you'll get them every Saturday for the next 5 or so weeks. That's an aside. I just thought of it because of this. Alex Pereira, Ilia Topuria. What a race. What a freaking race. Probably the closest. Remember Izzy and Jorge Masvidal a few years back? That was a really tough one. Yeah, this was a really, 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 really tough one. And ultimately, maybe that one wasn't as tough because Izzy won the belt, Masvidal didn't. Both these guys champions, both of them legends. Incredible. Incredible years. Both primed for big 2025 campaigns. Of course, Alex Pereira, a lot older than Topuria, and maybe in the running for that John Jones fight. If Jones doesn't go in the direction of Tom Aspinall, we shall see. Other fighters, male fighters, who had strong years, DDP, Dricus du Plessis, winning the belt. By the way, it is kind of crazy that DDP doesn't get mentioned, right? He beat Sean Strickland, who was the champion, and then Israel Adesanya. He doesn't get talked about in this discussion.
I've got him third.
Yeah, 2 wins, but it was really a 2-horse race, right? Because maybe those guys, I mean, he beat Adesanya in a great fight, but doesn't...
Beat the last 2 middleweight champs. I've got him third. I think he deserves that.
Alex Pantoja went 2-0. Steve Erceg and Kaya Sakura. Any other year, by the way, Merab Dvalishvili gets mentioned, right? He went 2-0 as well. Cejudo, O'Malley, but it feels like it just was about those 2, Alex Pereira and Ilia Topuria. I did mention Joaquin Buckley, who went 4-0. Carlos, how is it, GC?
Bratches?
Yeah, 4-0 as well. Charles Johnson, 4-0. Renato Moicano, 3-0. Diego Lopez, 3-0. Nasruddin Imavov, 3-0. Jean Silva, 3-0. Umar Nurmagomedov, 2-0. Yusuf Zalal, 3-0. Shara Magomedov, 3-0. Ludovic Klein, 3-0. Oban Elliott, Andre Lima, Paul Hughes, and Sean Woodson all went 3-0 as well. So, yeah, shout out to them. We had some other guys, obviously, in the PFL tournament who went 4-0. But in the end, it was down to those 2. And I'm not really sure. Do we have a poll up here? I wonder what the people are saying as... Yeah, they're watching it live. 66% in favor of Alex Pereira, 32% in favor of Ilia Topuria. How about that, gentlemen?
I think that's definitive. I think it's Alex. Thanks to everybody who helped us break that tie.
No ties in the Forest Wolves match, currently 2-0 as we enter the 80th minute. So that is very exciting. I mean, it's all coming up. It's all coming up, us guys. Another award show in the books. How do we feel? Always a bit of a load off, right? To get it out of the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think we got to give an acknowledgement to
On Air Jordan
here.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yes.
Andy, Frank. This thing's a
Legends.
beast, and they made magic.
Wait, other than a few drops and some music, what did Frank do?
Wow.
Wow, man.
Frank, he's not speaking for us, Frank.
No.
I know. Yeah.
We know how
He's
hard
like,
it is,
why
Frank.
didn't you hang around the holiday party? I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, worked. Oh, wow.
I have no idea.
Wow. No, incredible job. Incredible job by everyone in the back. It's a small, tight-knit team we have here, but man, do we churn out good stuff. You doing okay there, PT? You took a big,
He's not used to
how's
going
the
in the
tux
trenches
feeling?
with this like this.
3.5 hours? How's the tux feeling?
just dying for a piss, mate, to be honest with you. But other than that,
You got another look
Maybe
at
you
that
shouldn't have
seize the
gunned
throne
that
poster.
Negroni
and
down
reeling.
so quickly.
I'm getting a seize the throne fucking t-shirt.
Connor taught me you gotta smoke while you're doing it, so it keeps you alert.
It's a fire alarms, man.
A couple of news items. You could run to the loo if you
class.
want now.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. I actually need to go. Can I actually go?
You can
Yeah,
mute
you could
yourself
go.
first, bro.
I mean, come back if you can. Some breaking news, Frank. Dana White has joined the Meta board of directors. Meta today announcing that Dana White, John Elkin, and Charlie Songhurst have been elected to the company's board of directors. Mark Zuckerberg, founder and CEO of Meta, said Dana, John, and Charlie will add a depth of expertise and perspective that will help us tackle the massive opportunities ahead with AI, wearables, and the future of human connection. Here's a quote from Dana White himself. I've never been interested in joining a board of directors until I got the offer to join Meta's board. I'm a huge believer that social media and AI are the future. I am very excited to join this incredible team and learn more about this business from the inside. There is nothing I love more than building brands, and I look forward to helping take Meta to the next level. So that's from the president and CEO of the UFC, Dana White. How about that? Dana spreading his wings.
Yeah. Shout out to Meta.
My dad, we were on vacation, and he actually just like busted out the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
Oh wow,
it's quite the time.
Shout out to Meta, man. Our upstairs neighbors. Maybe we'll see Dana around the office.
Oh, that'd be incredible. They're welcome to come anytime. Yes, we love our good friends
DW.
over. Oh, it'd be amazing.
Mag lunch.
Break bread.
On me, man.
You wear the glasses and you say like, "Hey Meta, can you take me to X, Y, and Z?" And it talks to you. Or you say like, play Elton John, and you hear it crystal clear, but people standing around you don't hear it. I don't know how it happens.
I don't need it. Too futuristic.
It's incredible.
I'm stepping back. By 2026, I'm hoping to have a flip phone.
Yeah, no. I mean,
home phone.
Why 26? Why 26?
You know, you got to phase out of these things.
Right.
How many devices are you wearing right now, Connor?
A watch. And an uncharged Whoop. Actually hasn't been charged in a long time.
You just like the look?
On your belt.
Oh, yeah. Shout out.
Yeah, we're off to a great start this year.
What's the belt?
Practically a freaking cyborg today.
Belt. I mean, this is no internet connection or anything. This is a pedometer. 689. I must my
what
my
is steps?
Yeah, my gut's kind of hanging over my belt, so I must have reset this bad boy. I mean, I was at like 6,000, 689. That's
689 for the day.
That obviously got reset at some point.
I don't know.
Wow.
689. It takes me 689 to get out of my damn apartment.
Earlier.
It takes me 689 to get to my pisser in the morning. Come on, there's 689 in the day.
Do you not trust the one on the phone?
This is to avoid carrying my phone everywhere.
Do you have your phone with you right now?
I mean, yeah, I'm at work, but like, when I'm going out to dinner, when I'm going walking, when I'm doing anything,
Look,
this keeps
2025 is your throne to seize. I'm just looking forward to it.
I actually don't listen to the music at the gym. I go, no.
Wow, that is
no phone.
Nothing.
Yeah. So then after I have like a hard
player.
workout, they're like, I get the health app, and they're just like, you haven't done shit today, man. I'm like,
so what do
you just weren't with me?
So what do? You just take in the sights and sounds.
Yeah, taking the sights and sounds. My time to think. Get away.
You don't even record your stuff for TikTok.
Are you on TikTok?
No.
Podcasts? I think you're not a big podcast guy.
I do listen to some podcasts, but not when I'm working out.
He's got Connor Berg's Between the Weights.
You know what I like doing? I like bringing my iPad on the treadmill and playing some chess. Run some chess up.
Gosh, you've become so. You're not the same guy that we met 4 years ago. You're a lot more sophisticated, dare I say.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm ass at chess. My 5-year-old nephew, he's the one that got me back into it recently.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, we were having some battles at Christmas. 5 years old, we were going to war, man.
Could have pulled up on Wemby.
What a great scene. That was a great scene. Love that. Love that young man. Well, speaking of, and good luck with that journey that you're on. Speaking of sophistication, also breaking news. It's going down in 2025 in Albuquerque. It's Rampage Jackson versus Rashad Evans, just announced at ICS Mania 1, the big boxing showdown in New Mexico. Yes, deep in the heart. Now, no date attached. And, of course, we remember the Rampage Jackson boxing match that was talked about for Qatar. in May, June of this past year, which did not come to fruition. But this is obviously one that has a lot of history attached to it. There it is. Rampage and Rashad. Sponsored by the GFL? No, I don't know. It's boxing. Anyone? Is this still on?
That's the GFL, man.
Well, hey.
Oh, sorry.
Expensive piece of equipment.
Sorry, I just wanted to know if anyone was still there.
Yeah, we're there, man. Can't
All
wait.
No.
God,
We're digesting
Rampage,
the news that
boxing.
just broke. Like,
yeah.
It's going to be great. Can't wait. Pete's
That's
back.
going to be one of the
Oh,
moments.
hey, Pete, how are you?
What's up? Great piss.
You
Thank
missed
you.
Dana White joining the Meta Board of Directors, and Rampage and Rashad are going to be boxing. Also, Forrest is still up. This will be our 6th win in a row. We are going to Europe. I don't know if you know about that, but we're like kind of a big.
Oh, shouldn't have said it. Shouldn't have said it.
Nah, we're going. Take me
You're
on a
going
trip. I want to
going
go
somewhere.
somewhere.
January transfer window
Copenhagen,
could really upset you.
Marseille.
The way people have been talking about the likes of Murillo, Chris Wood. Just saying, man.
Super Callum Hudson. Raw on Netflix tonight. Party? You guys want to do a watch along? What are we doing?
No, watching.
I'm not watching it. I'll be there in some state. I don't know what state that will be.
Oh, I was
don't
going to
know
say
if I
it's
can
in
commute it.
California, but you meant your own personal state.
Yeah, I'll be in a state to get through it, and I don't know anything about the current crop of wrestlers. The last
you're
time I
missing
believe you got me into it was Sami Zayn, who was
Yeah.
taking on the tribal chief.
Oh, yeah.
What
there's
time does it
fucking-
start tonight?
8 p.m.
Oh,
And one of the
prime
interesting
time.
things
1
about
a.m.
it.
1 a.m.
Well,
standard.
yes, that's right. And one of the interesting things about it is it's a it's kind of open ended. They don't have to end at exactly a certain time anymore.
I think
So it
they
could be
should
2
end at a
hours, 3
certain
hours.
I can't wait. I
Yeah,
can't
no.
wait personally.
They're pulling out all the stops. By the way,
no commercials?
there are commercials. How
Oh,
about
okay.
that? Yeah. Shout out to me.
for fuck's
Did you guys know I was
Whoa,
I've been
whoa.
wearing these all day. Like I really didn't have to wear these.
You literally go shoeless during the show, and now you wear a nice pair of loafers.
Well, it's part of the tux. I didn't want to.
I got
look.
I got just some plain white Nikes on.
No, I've been wearing I went.
I was cramping up.
Yeah, I went like full on. All right.
I'm not wearing
So-
anything below the waist.
And I do want to let everyone know if you love this
After the second
particular award
Negroni,
show,
everything came off.
if you love this award show, we have another one coming your way tomorrow. Myself and Ariel Adipo handing out our boxing awards, 15 total, so a little less. We don't have like those betting ones and all that stuff, but it's going to be great. And that is tomorrow on the DAZN Boxing YouTube channel. Yes, the very first Ariel and Ade Boxing Awards show tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Of course, we'll have a program at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow on the show, Kevin Lee is back. Kevin Lee and I didn't really get a chance to really talk when he returned with Anthony Pettis, if you recall, a couple of weeks back. We have some things to discuss, so I'm looking forward to that. Cain Velasquez is going to join us tomorrow on the show, and
That's
others as well. What's that, PT?
Big one, man. Kane. Cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
That was a great interview.
Obviously a legend, and we recently found out that he is going to be a part of the GFL crew as well. So stay tuned for that. 1 p.m. Eastern, that's when the show airs, as usual. Back, full swing. We've got AH show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Boys in the Back on Thursday. Of course, the Crack on Friday next week. And we've got a big stretch coming up with UFC 311. You got the big Darren Till, Anthony Taylor fight. Oh, yeah, Anthony Taylor making his return to the program tomorrow. Anthony Taylor's been on before, right? Maybe not. I think he has. Am I wrong? Maybe not.
I think he has.
Yeah. Anyway, he'll be on the show to talk to us about the Darren Till fight. He replaced Tommy Fury. That was one of the notable things that happened during the break. And much more fun to come as well. I want to ask everyone, if you're enjoying the program, give us a thumbs up, hit the notification, hit the subscribe as well. A lot of big things planned for 2025 here. As now we're just like, the plane has taken off and we're going, and it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time for all of us. But I feel like we've talked about it all, we've said it all, we've done it all. A nice 3-hour and 48-minute program.
You know, in a bit of a tricky spot here with the Ariel and Ade Award show tomorrow. What do we do with the decorations? You know?
That's a good call.
The one show in the interim.
That's a
The
great.
set design team has been stressing about it.
When did you come to this realization? Just now?
Oh no, I've been having the realization.
Oh
for a while.
yeah, it's a good call.
Because it can't get redecorated. It was a timely process.
Yeah, we'll talk offline. I thought you were saying, what are you going to do about the next 4 minutes? Because the Forest game is about to end. So are you just going to like talk us through it, or That's where my head was at. But no, it's a great point. It's a great point. I mean, can we just talk? Can we honestly just talk about the fact that we picked this random team as they got promoted? Everyone made fun of us for that. Then said we would jump off the bandwagon. We stuck through, thick and thin. We even said on DAZN last year, I said to Kate Abdo that they would be in Champions League in 2020. I predicted this. They need to pull out the clip. I said in 2025, you're going to be talking about Forest in Champions League. She laughed, haha, cute American guy talking about soccer. And now here we are. We're about to end the week second place. I mean, come on. You talk about Blanche Stradamus. Give me something. Give me something.
Third, technically.
No, tie for second.
No. Goal differential makes us third.
Half a year to play, Ariel. Let's not do the victory lap yet, mate.
I like it, Petesy. It ain't over till it's over. It is not over till it's over. I got a Forest jersey. I forgot about European sizes being much smaller. Sleeves way too short.
Man, shout out to Luke Littler.
Sleeves cut off right here.
Oh, and shout out to
Nuke.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about the darts.
Sure, yeah.
Don't worry about that, Frank. I appreciate that at the final second. Congratulations to all the winner. Back on Tuesday. Same time and place. Peace.